Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 151, let's go. Roar. The roar of Black Kyurem was much deeper and wilder compared to its white Kyurem form. Along with the roar, Black Kyurem's entire body surged forward, enveloped in bright blue lightning. The arcs of electricity formed a halo, wrapping around Black Kyurem, showcasing its power and brilliance. This was Zekrum's fusion bolt, but Black Kyurem could also use it. Necrozma, Photon Geyser, Dylan calmly commanded Dawnwing's Necrozma. Dawnwing's Necrozma kept retreating, golden light flickering at the tips of its wings. A psychic-type Photon Geyser. The golden beam shot forth, but Black Kyurem charged straight ahead without dodging. Boom! The Photon Geyser exploded directly on Black Kyurem's body, but the next moment, the terrifying energy swirling around was pierced by Black Kyurem, now covered in blue arcs of electricity, charging forward. The sight was horrifying. So violent, Dylan raised an eyebrow. The power of Black Kyurem was indeed overwhelming, and as a top-tier dragon-type legendary, its physical strength was exceptional. Dawnwing's Necrozma continued to retreat, trying to keep its distance from Black Kyurem, but the gap between them was closing. In terms of speed, Black Kyurem was significantly faster than Dawnwing's Necrozma. Moongeist Beam. But that was fine, let's go head-to-head then. Dawnwing's Necrozma spread its wings wide, dark energy swirling around it like a shadowy full moon. Ghost-type Moongeist Beam. This was Lunala's signature move, but when Necrozma fused with Lunala, Dawnwing's Necrozma could also use Moongeist Beam. A brilliant dark beam shot out, hitting Black Kyurem right as it approached. Boom! The Moongeist Beam and Fusion Bolt collided fiercely, the resulting shockwaves shaking the air as turbulent winds howled like a hurricane. With a thunderous boom, the Moongeist Beam exploded, and the violent energy knocked both Dawnwing's Necrozma and Black Kyurem backward. Roar! But the next moment, Black Kyurem let out an enraged roar, stabilizing its body and once again charging toward Dawnwing's Necrozma. At the same time, pale blue crystalline energy began to glow on Black Kyurem's body, flickering with arcs of electricity. This was Black Kyurem's strongest signature move, Freeze Shock. What a crazy guy, does he never stop attacking? Dylan couldn't help but feel a little helpless seeing this. Necrozma, wait for it to come closer. At Black Kyurem's charging speed, Dawnwing's Necrozma couldn't dodge, but Kyurem was indeed clever. It seemed to have guessed that Dawnwing's Necrozma was better suited for long-range combat, so it switched to its black form for close combat. The colorful parts of Dawnwing's Necrozma's head glowed faintly. As Black Kyurem rapidly approached with Freeze Shock, the intense cold caused even Dawnwing's Necrozma to feel some discomfort. Protect! A green barrier of Protect unfolded in front of Dawnwing's Necrozma. Boom! Freeze Shock slammed into the Protect barrier with a violent crash. The surface of the barrier trembled, but it barely managed to withstand the impact of Freeze Shock. The blue-white crystalline energy, mixed with electricity, continued to assault the barrier, and soon, a thick layer of ice began to form on its surface. Roar! With Black Kyurem's fierce roar, cracks started to appear on the Protect barrier. Crack! Freeze Shock exhausted its power, and the Protect barrier shattered into fragments and dissipated. Gladed held up, Dylan's eyes flickered slightly. Although Dawnwing's Necrozma's level wasn't as high as Black Kyurem's, the gap shouldn't have been so great that Protect couldn't hold. But seeing the barrier nearly shatter made Dylan a little worried. Although the Protect had broken, the distance between Black Kyurem and Dawnwing's Necrozma was now very close. Black Kyurem immediately raised its powerful arm, slashing the air with Shadow Claw toward Dawnwing's Necrozma. A ghost-type Shadow Claw. Necrozma, Dragon Pulse. Dawnwing's Necrozma retreated sideways as a Dragon Pulse formed in front of it, but Black Kyurem's movements were even faster. The deep, dark shadow claw struck Dawnwing's Necrozma directly, sending it flying back with a painful grunt. It was 4 times weak to ghost-type attacks, and even with the support of Prism armor, Dawnwing's Necrozma was still vulnerable. However, as it was knocked back, Dawnwing's Necrozma's Dragon Pulse was already fired, hitting Black Kyurem as it attempted to pursue. The dragon-shaped pulse exploded on Black Kyurem's body, and it let out a painful roar, dragon versus dragon. Though Black Kyurem was an Ice-type had no resistance to Dragon-type moves, so Dragon Pulse was still effective against Black Kyurem. Roar! But the pain seemed to only fuel Black Kyurem's ferocity as it roared and charged once again toward Dawnwing's Necrozma. The shadowy claws ripped through the air, slashing toward Dawnwing's Necrozma once more, a ghost-type Shadow Claw again. Why does this guy love Shadow Claw so much? Dylan frowned slightly, recalling that Kyurem in the Sacred Sword movie also had a particular fondness for using Shadow Claw in close combat. It was strange, but Shadow Claw wasn't good news. Dawnwing's Necrozma was extremely weak to ghost types, and being hit by consecutive Shadow Claws was taking a heavy toll on it. At this rate, it couldn't last. Even if they kept exchanging blows, the first to fall would undoubtedly be Dawnwing's Necrozma. Not only did it lack the level advantage, but it also had no type advantage. If it were Dawnwing's Necrozma in its Solgaleo form, there might have been a chance to turn the tide, perhaps even defeat this Kyurem. Time to retreat, and come back later to take down this ice dragon. Necrozma, use prismatic laser to force it back. Dylan made up his mind and telepathically commanded Dawnwing's Necrozma. Necrozma! Dawnwing's Necrozma let out a low growl, raising its massive claws as rainbow-colored psychic energy gathered. The Psychic-type Prismatic Laser. This was Necrozma's most powerful signature move, with a base power of 160. Normally, it was the strongest Psychic-type move. Black Kyurem had already closed in, its dark shadow claw slashing down, hitting Dawnwing's Necrozma directly. Necrozma! Dawnwing's Necrozma cried out in pain, but it raised its claws high as a massive amount of energy began to gather overhead. Boom! 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 Like a downpour, countless prismatic laser beams rained down, hitting Black Kyurem directly. The barrage of prismatic laser beams exploded on Black Kyurem's body, forcing it to the ground as it roared angrily, unable to lift its head. Reshiram, let's go! Seeing that Black Kyurem was being suppressed by the prismatic laser, Dylan didn't hesitate at all. He and Lily quickly switched to riding Reshiram, preparing to make their escape. Good! Reshiram immediately turned, flapping its wings as it sped away, while Dylan took out the Ultra Ball and recalled Dawnwing's Necrozma. Looking back at Black Kyurem, which was still being pinned down by the prismatic laser, Dylan sighed. It seemed that time was still too short. They hadn't been able to take down this beast yet. But that's alright, once Necrozma absorbs enough light and transforms into Ultra Necrozma, defeating Kyurem won't be an issue. That ice dragon will be mine sooner or later. After Reshiram carried Dylan and Lily far away, the prismatic laser finally ended. Black Kyurem looked around, but the surroundings were now empty. Especially its giant chasm, which had been devastated by the aftershocks of the battle and the bombardment from the prismatic laser. It was now a ruined mess. Black Kyurem panted heavily, not from injury, but from sheer, overwhelming anger. They ran. They actually ran. Roar! The enraged roar shook the entire giant chasm, causing ice to shoot out wildly. In an instant, the entire chasm was covered in a fresh layer of ice crystals, once again looking majestic and beautiful. But that did nothing to quell Black Kyurem's fury. Black Kyurem shot up into the sky, sensing the direction of their escape. Its dragon eyes gleamed with a cold light. It wasn't going to let them get away. Meanwhile, Reshiram, having flown quite a distance, slowed down slightly, finally able to relax a little. It seemed they were safe for now. Reshiram, can you sense where Zekrom is? I can, Dylan. Are we going to fight the Black Dragon? Reshiram immediately perked up at the mention of Zekrom. It was always eager when it came to fighting Zekrom. Weren't you just injured by Kyurem? Dylan laughed in exasperation. This little injury is nothing. Dylan, trust me, I will bring you victory and glory. Reshiram lifted its head high, dismissing Zekrom as insignificant. As long as it's not Kuram, I, Reshiram, fear no opponent. Really? Dylan smirked. Of course it's true, Dylan. You can't blame me for what happened earlier. Kuram is too strong, even hurting it would have been difficult. Reshiram, knowing that its earlier performance in the giant chasm had been somewhat embarrassing, tried to salvage its dignity. Besides, it could have lasted longer, but actually injuring Kuram would have required a trade of blows. However, it wasn't clear how much damage it could have dealt to Kuram in return. Lily covered her mouth, trying to stifle her laughter. Alright then, I'll be watching your performance the next time we face a different opponent, Dylan said as he stroked Reshiram's fur. For now, contact Zekrom and arrange a battle here. Got it. Reshiram immediately sent out its psychic signal. Its connection with Zekrom was special. No matter how far apart they could always locate each other and communicate telepathically. After all, they were twins. Dylan glanced back. Given Kuram's temper, it definitely wouldn't let them go easily. There was a 90% chance it would pursue them. Dylan didn't want to be constantly hounded by Kuram, so finding someone to take the heat was essential. N and Zekrom would be the perfect candidates for that. Meanwhile, on the other side, N, along with Kores, had just hijacked a police car and was now looking worriedly at the disheveled Getsus before him. Father, are you all right? For once, N's usually emotionless eyes showed genuine concern. I'm fine, N. It's all thanks to you this time, Getsus said with a dark expression, forcing a smile to thank N. Kores, standing nearby, smirked subtly. His tone couldn't have been more fake. But N, who trusted Getsus deeply, didn't notice this at all. Sorry, Father. I only received the news today, and you suffered because of it. But how did you? N was still puzzled, not understanding how Getsus had been caught by Officer Jenny in Isiris City. It was a boy. That despicable brat deliberately mocked our ideals, enraging me. I fell into his trap. Getsus' face darkened further. He, the leader of Team Plasma, had spent the night in Isiris City's jail. What a disgrace! An utter humiliation. N furrowed his brows deeply, but at that moment, N. What's the matter, Zekrom? N responded quietly to Zekrom's telepathic message. Reshiram has sent a battle challenge. Should we go? Zekrom's deep, calm voice echoed in N's mind. As opposing dragons, it wasn't surprising that Reshiram, now awakened with a new hero, had issued a challenge. The true hero, huh? N thought for a moment before quickly making a decision. Since the other side wanted a fight, there was no reason to refuse. Ideals will never lose to truth. Never. Let's go. I want to meet this true hero myself. Chapter 152, alright, let's begin. The message has already been sent, Dylan. The Black Dragon and its hero should be arriving soon. Wait. Before Reshiram could finish speaking through telepathy, snowflakes had already started to fall. Reshiram paused, turning to see a gray-black ice dragon rapidly approaching from the distance. Big brother! The ice dragon is chasing us! Lily exclaimed in shock, quickly turning to Dylan. Don't panic, it's faster than I expected. Dylan was somewhat surprised. He had expected that Kuram wouldn't let them off easily, but he hadn't thought it would pursue them so quickly. Still, it wasn't a big problem. As long as they had Necrozma, Kuram wouldn't be able to hurt them. Moreover, Dylan always had an ace up his sleeve, though using that method would cause a massive impact. Fly faster, head towards the Black Dragon, Dylan patted Reshiram, signaling it to speed up. Reshiram didn't respond, but the turbine in its tail began spinning rapidly as flames ignited. Accelerate! Reshiram began picking up speed, but Dark Kuram was faster, and it too was in full pursuit. The gap between the two dragons shrank rapidly, with snowflakes continuously falling wherever Dark Kuram passed. The weather itself was being affected. Fortunately, thanks to Dylan directing Reshiram away from cities and villages, they had avoided causing an earthquake across Unova. However, the chase between Reshiram and Dark Kiram didn't go unnoticed by people out in the wild. Though, due to the speed of the two dragons, they couldn't see them clearly. Necrozma, use prismatic laser. Dylan opened the Ultra Ball, and Dusk Mane Necrozma appeared. A beam of golden light erupted, shooting towards the rapidly approaching Dark Kiram. Dark Kiram roared in fury, its body crackling with blue and white energy, arcs of electricity flashing wildly. Freeze shock! Boom! The prismatic laser struck Dark Kiram in its freeze shock state, creating a continuous thunderous explosion and shockwaves that rippled outward. Though Dark Kiram quickly broke through, Necrozma's attack had indeed slowed it down. Dylan then recalled Dusk Mane Necrozma, and Reshiram resumed flying at top speed. About half an hour later, Reshiram stopped above a mountainous wilderness, as a pitch-black dragon floated in front of them. Riding atop Zekrom was none other than N. "Hey, long time no see, N," Dylan greeted N warmly with a smile. Not bad, the black dragon had arrived faster than he expected. "So, it's you." Dylan. N's eyes lit up slightly as he gazed at the pure white Reshiram, then turned to Dylan, a barely noticeable smile tugging at the corners of his lips. N had always felt something special about Dylan, and now that it was confirmed Dylan was the one who had awakened the true dragon, and found himself feeling a bit pleased. Yes, both he and Dylan were special individuals. With their unique traits, didn't that make them perfect rivals? In that case, Dylan, let me witness the power of the legendary Reshiram. My Zekrom will never be defeated. N's voice grew more passionate, already looking forward to this battle of truth versus ideals. Wait a second, N. As much as I'd love to have a showdown with you, today's not really the best time. That big guy behind us has been chasing us relentlessly. Could you and the Black Dragon hold it off for a bit? Dylan interrupted N, glancing behind him. Dark Kiram was getting close again. N. Zekrom. Let's go, Reshiram. Reshiram let out a melodious dragon cry in response and immediately flapped its wings, flying away from Zekrom's side. N frowned as he watched Reshiram and Dylan leave, feeling confused and puzzled why. But suddenly, the black dragon's expression changed dramatically. It had spotted Dark Kiram rapidly approaching from the distance. N. We need to get out of here, now. Zekrom was shocked. Was that really Kiram? And judging by its aura, it was clearly enraged. What was Reshiram thinking, provoking Kiram of all beings? Moreover, this had to be intentional. Reshiram and its hero hadn't summoned them for a battle at all. They had called them to distract Kiram and take the heat off themselves. Ha! N blinked in surprise. But before N could ask any questions, an overwhelming, icy pressure descended. The rampaging form of Dark Kiram had already entered N's line of sight. Black Dragon. Dark Kiram's enraged roar echoed across the sky. First the White Dragon, and now you, Black Dragon. You're both worthless. The cruel, ferocious gleam in Dark Kiram's golden eyes made Zekrom's skin crawl. What on earth had Reshiram done to Dark Kiram to make it this angry? I'm going to turn both of you into stone for the next 10,000 years. Dark Kiram's wrathful roar resounded again as blue-white energy lit up its body, forming an arc-shaped barrier. Freeze shock. The overwhelming power surged forward, and N's pupils contracted sharply. What kind of terrifying entity was this? After being evaded by Reshiram and Dusk Mane Necrozma for half an hour, Dark Kiram's rage had nearly reached its breaking point. Dylan. N was both shocked and furious. Now he fully understood. He had been used as a scapegoat. Dylan had provoked this ice dragon, and now he was leaving N to face the consequences. Wait. Kiram. It was the white dragon that angered you. You should be going after the white dragon. Zekrom's deep, steady voice tried to reason with the furious ice dragon. There was no need for this. Blame should be placed where it belonged. Zekrom was so innocent. Doesn't matter. Neither of you is getting away. Dark Kiram's sinister and terrifying words rang out as it unleashed freeze shock toward Zekrom. White Dragon. I curse you. Zekrom cursed Reshiram inwardly but wasted no time. There was no way it was going to fight Kiram head-on. Yes, the black dragon made a run for it. Meanwhile, so refreshing. Reshiram landed in a lush green meadow, breathing in the fragrant air free from cold. It felt as though its entire being had been purified. So satisfying. As expected of you, Dylan. In human terms, this move of using another's sword to kill was brilliant. Reshiram looked admiringly at its hero. Now, the black dragon would either be dead or at least badly injured. It feels so real. I love it. Lily. Don't get too excited yet. Zikram won't be able to hold Kuram off for too long. Dylan thought to himself. Although they were already far away, if Kuram's rage wasn't fully vented, it probably wouldn't give up on chasing the white dragon. No worries, as long as we run far enough, the ice dragon won't keep pursuing us, Reshiram said confidently. Fine, I'll make a call first. Dylan nodded, knowing that as long as they distanced themselves and Reshiram suppressed its aura, Kuram wouldn't be able to find them. However, Dylan had another idea and wanted to take advantage of this opportunity. Hello? President Goodshow, good afternoon. Dylan called President Goodshow, who was far away in Kanto. Dylan. How's it going? Did you find Reshiram? Goodshow asked, laughing. Of course. I've already earned Reshiram's recognition, but something unusual happened over here. Oh? Ha ha ha. I knew you'd pull it off, Dylan. I didn't misjudge you. Goodshow was momentarily surprised but then overjoyed. The legendary white dragon of the Unova region. Dylan actually managed to awaken and capture it. What an achievement! And since Dylan was from the Kanto region, this brought great honor to them. When are you coming back? Come to the Indigo Plateau, I'll personally prepare a feast for you. Goodshow was ecstatic. He had always liked Dylan, but now he was even more fond of him. This wasn't just Dylan's victory, it was Kanto's future glory, an even greater one than Lance's. President, let me explain first. I've angered the legendary strongest dragon of Unova, Kuram, and the situation here is a bit tricky. Kuram? Dylan, are you okay? I'm fine for now. Good, good. Then hurry back to Kanto. Unova is too dangerous. Goodshow sighed in relief. I actually have a way to defeat Kuram, but it might cause a bit of a stir. What kind of stir? Goodshow was puzzled again. Well, the sky might turn dark. Dylan glanced at the clear sky and spoke vaguely. Lily was taken aback but quickly understood. Reshiram, on the other hand, tilted its head in confusion. What did he mean by the sky turning dark? Turning dark? That's no problem, Dylan. Do what you need to. If anything happens, I've got your back, Goodshow said grandly. Although he had a nagging feeling that the dark sky sounded familiar, he didn't think much of it. It's just a dark sky, what could go wrong? Not a big deal. Thanks, President. I felt a bit bad about absorbing all of Unova's light, and it might stay dark for a day or two before it recovers. A smile spread across Dylan's face. No worries, Dylan. I'll always be your strong support. Goodshow chuckled, but his laughter abruptly stopped as he realized something. Wait, Dylan, what did you just say? Goodshow wondered if he had misheard. All of Unova's light? A couple of days of darkness? What kind of joke was that? Exactly what I just said, but don't worry, President. Other than the darkness, there won't be any other effects. The light will come back in a day or two. Dylan reassured him. Goodshow was silent. Could he take back his words? It seemed like supporting Dylan was harder than he thought. President, you said you'd always have my back. Dylan, this is a bit tricky. Goodshow said with a bitter smile. This wasn't a small matter, it was an entire region's light. 2 days of darkness would cause a significant panic. If it's difficult for you, then forget it. I just thought it'd benefit Unova. If I can capture Kuram. Wait, you're planning to capture Kuram? Gucho's tone suddenly shifted. That's right. As long as I have enough light, I can capture Kiram. But I understand it might be tough for you to manage. Dylan said with a hint of regret. No, Dylan. Go for it. As a young man, you should pursue your goals. I do have some influence, after all. Gucho said seriously, quickly changing his tune. The strongest dragon of Unova, Kiram. As the president of the Pokemon League, Gucho knew a bit about it. If anyone else claimed they could capture Kiram, he wouldn't believe them. But since Dylan had just earned Reshiram's recognition, Gucho felt Dylan might actually pull it off. If Dylan could capture Kiram, wouldn't that make him invincible? And if Dylan was invincible, wouldn't Kanto also become invincible? Giving up a couple of days of light in Unova in exchange for the legendary ice dragon Kiram? Gucho considered it a worthwhile trade. At worst, they could compensate Unova with a huge sum of money for their lost light. Although it would be a staggering amount, it wasn't a big deal. The league wasn't short on funds. That's why you're the best, President. I knew you were reliable. Dylan's grin widened. He informed Gucho mainly because the event might be too significant, causing panic in Unova. But with Gucho backing him, they could issue an announcement to calm the people down, preventing chaos. After ending the call with Gucho, Dylan released Necrozma in its Dawnwings form. Alright, let's begin. Dylan watched as Necrozma slowly rose into the sky, its body starting to glow. Like a black hole, it began absorbing all the light around it. Before long, people all over Unova began looking up at the sky. The sky had gone dark. Chapter 153, Welcome Aboard. It suddenly became dark. Everyone in the Unova region was stunned, as the sky turned black all of a sudden. It only lasted for a few seconds. Was it even 3 seconds? And it wasn't even 4 in the afternoon yet. The sky simply went dark without warning. What is happening? Some people had their Pokemon use Sunny Day, but the sunlight it created immediately vanished as soon as it appeared. This sudden change threw everyone into a panic, and the whole Unova region descended into chaos. Police departments in various towns and cities were inundated with calls. However, the Unova League quickly issued a special statement, claiming it was just a natural phenomenon and there was no need to worry. The statement urged people to stay indoors for the next few days and wait for the darkness to pass. Many were still skeptical, but since the Unova League had spoken, they temporarily put their fears to rest. Meanwhile, on the other side, the sky and earth were illuminated by a grayish-blue glow, as a massive dragon of light stood between the heavens and the earth. Shiny Ultra Necrozma. Reshiram was stunned. As a fellow Dragon-type Pokemon, it could clearly sense the dragon aura emanating from Ultra Necrozma. Its status among Dragon-types dropped by 1 point. What is this? Lily gazed in awe at the Dragon of Light. It was simply too divine. This was completely different from the Dawnwings Necrozma they had encountered before. Under the grayish-blue glow, parts of its body were connected by beams of light, with 2 pairs of wings hovering at its sides and huge feet planted firmly on the ground. Not only had its appearance changed, but this new Necrozma gave Lily a completely different feeling as well. The sensation was unlike anything she had felt when facing the ferocious ice dragon. She had sensed fear from Black Kiram because of its power and the overwhelming pressure it exuded. But standing before this Ultra Necrozma felt entirely different. It was a sensation she couldn't put into words, as if a lower being was naturally aware of its insignificance in the presence of a higher being. If she had to describe Ultra Necrozma in one word, it would be God. Ding. Ultra Necrozma, Psychic/Dragon type, Prism Pokemon. Ability, Neuroforce. Signature move. Description: the light emitted from its body affects living beings in nature, causing various effects. Its moves hadn't changed, but clearly, Necrozma had become something completely different. This was the transformation brought about by absorbing all the light in the Unova region. How are you feeling, Necrozma? Dylan admired the power of this Ultra Necrozma. It was perfect. I feel great, better than ever. Ultra Necrozma's voice, once low and deep, now had a much gentler telepathic tone. Good to hear. Now, let's go find Kiram, Dylan said, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. Kiram, your time has come. Roar. Ultra Necrozma raised its head and let out a dragon roar, using its psychic powers to lift Dylan, Lily, and Reshiram into the air. The group soared high into the sky, flying at incredible speed toward a specific direction. Having achieved its ultimate form, Ultra Necrozma's psychic power had been significantly enhanced, allowing it to sense Kiram's location. At that very moment, on a distant coastline. Boom! Under the darkened sky, Zekrom collapsed to the ground, its black, stone-like body battered and covered with frost. It was severely weakened. It was clear that Zekrom had been mercilessly beaten. Inwardly, Zekrom cursed a certain pure white dragon. White dragon! I can't believe you set me up like this. Black dragon, is this all you've got? Under the gloomy sky, Black Kiram looked down at Zekrom, its body emitting a faint black and blue glow, exuding a deep and terrifying aura. From today onward, you'll become an eternal stone. The turbine at the base of Black Kiram's tail began to glow with icy blue energy. It had given up on devouring Zekrom and Reshiram. Instead, it planned to turn them into eternal stones. When Zekrom and Reshiram's physical bodies were destroyed, they wouldn't die. Instead, they would revert into dragon stones, falling into a deep sleep until they were one day awakened again. The length of this sleep depended on the extent of their injuries, and clearly, Black Kiram was planning to inflict a heavy one on Zekrom. Kiram, don't you get it? The white dragon lured me here on purpose. Just to distract you. Zekrom's deep voice sounded again, attempting to negotiate with Kiram. It doesn't matter. After I deal with you, I'll go find the white dragon. Black Kiram's golden eyes flashed with murderous intent, and its aura grew even more oppressive. But at that moment, a golden beam of light shot across the sky, aimed directly at Black Kiram. Sensing the danger, Black Kiram quickly turned around, ready to retaliate, but the beam of light was even faster than expected. Photon Geyser. The attack struck Black Kiram head-on, sending a wave of intense pain coursing through its body and drawing an enraged roar from it. The next moment, Black Kiram was hurled onto a small mountain by the Photon Geyser. Boom! The loud explosion shook the heavens, and the golden glow illuminated half the sky. What just happened? Zekrom was stunned. But in the next instant, Zekrom snapped out of it. Now was not the time to think about that. Whoever attacked Black Kiram was their savior. Thank goodness. Grateful to its unseen rescuer, Zekrom fought through the pain and cold, struggling to take flight and flee. In its current state, it was too dangerous to stay here. It needed to retreat and recover. Earlier, during its pursuit by Black Kiram, it had dropped Den off, not wanting him to get caught up in the battle. Now, Zekrom had to go find him. Roar! No sooner had Zekrom fled than Black Kiram's furious roar echoed across the landscape. Crack, crack! A wave of freezing cold rapidly spread, instantly turning the entire area into an ice field. Black Kiram shot into the sky, its golden eyes glaring at the distant horizon. A massive grayish-blue dragon was speeding toward it, with the white dragon Reshiram along with Dylan and Lily on its back, also entering Black Kiram's sight. It was them again, Reshiram and these two humans. Black Kiram's eyes gleamed with ferocity, but its focus ultimately shifted to the enormous grayish-blue dragon. Though the pressure it now felt was entirely different, this aura was still familiar. It was the same pink and black bat Pokemon from before, but how had it changed so drastically? And grown so much stronger? Kiram, we meet again, Dylan said with a smile, greeting Black Kiram. Well, humans and the white dragon. You dare return? Black Kiram's raspy telepathic voice was full of malice. Why wouldn't we? After all, I still want to capture you, Kiram, Dylan said, his gaze fixed on Unova's strongest dragon. Still the same old talk, Kiram. Are you really content hiding away, despite your immense power? The whole world should know the name Kiram, Dylan spoke with sincerity. What a joke. Do you think I'm the white dragon? I've never needed recognition from weak humans to validate my power. Black Kyurem sneered in disdain. To it, humans were frail creatures, unworthy of acknowledging its strength or name. It was pointless. I see. I guess I'll have to defeat you to capture you, Dylan sighed, already expecting this outcome. Ha ha ha. Greedy fool. The white dragon may be weak, but after acquiring it, you still have the nerve to covet me? Black Kyurem laughed mockingly. It had barely managed to escape earlier, and now Dylan's greed had driven him to return. Kyurem's opinion of humans remained unchanged. Do you think you can beat me with that unfamiliar dragon? You're too arrogant, human. Black Kyurem's eyes gleamed with menace. Then how about this, if I defeat you, will you follow me, Kyurem? Dylan proposed. There's no chance. Today, you'll all become eternal ice sculptures. Dark Kyurem was incredibly arrogant, as it should be, for it was Kyurem, the strongest dragon on Earth. Merely a defeated foe, it thought. Did it think changing its appearance would enable it to defeat Kyurem? Kyurem found it amusing. Roar! Blue and white ice energy flowed around Kyurem's body, forming a barrier as electricity crackled. This was freeze shock. A thunderous dragon's roar echoed as Dark Kyurem charged at Ultra Necrozma with wild, overwhelming power. Feel the might of the strongest dragon. Dark Kyurem could sense that this opponent had also acquired dragon-like energy after transforming, which meant it too was a dragon. Perfect. As an ice dragon, my favorite opponent to fight is other dragons. Such a domineering dragon, Necrozma, Dylan raised his eyebrow at the sight. Photon geyser. Boom! Ultra Necrozma stretched its body as black light swirled before gradually turning golden. Photon geyser. A golden energy sphere shot out, crashing into the charging Dark Kyurem. Boom! The photon geyser collided with freeze shock, golden and blue-white light filling the sky, painting the dark heavens with two colors. Dark Kyurem's face twisted in fury, desperately forcing out more power, but it could feel freeze shock slowly being overwhelmed by photon geyser. How is this possible? How could it be this strong? Power, come forth! Dark Kyurem roared in rage as the freeze shock energy around its body swelled. With a deafening explosion, the photon geyser erupted, sending a tangible golden shockwave outward. The surrounding area was engulfed in a gale as Ultra Necrozma flapped its wings. Psychic energy flooded the scene, instantly calming the raging winds. Dark Kyurem, blasted back by the explosion, crashed heavily into the ground, causing a minor earthquake. That was insane! Lily exclaimed, eyes wide as she saw Ultra Necrozma bring down the mighty and arrogant Kyurem with one move. Reshirem's dragon eyes widened in disbelief too. They had expected Ultra Necrozma to be strong, but not this powerful. In a direct clash, it had actually defeated Dark Kyurem. So strong. Dylan couldn't help but be impressed. Despite Ultra Necrozma's transformation, its actual level hadn't increased. In other words, in terms of sheer level, Ultra Necrozma was still below Dark Kyurem, but its power had made up for that difference. Ultra Necrozma's power was truly immense, worthy of being labeled as the Pokémon that surpassed all past legends. Roar! But just then, Dark Kyurem's roar echoed once again. The gray-black dragon rose into the sky, panting heavily, its golden eyes locked onto Ultra Necrozma. This is impossible. Kyurem couldn't accept it. In an instant, flames surged over Dark Kyurem's body, and in the blink of an eye, it transformed into White Kyurem. If close combat wasn't working, it would resort to long-range attacks. The turbine at White Kyurem's tail lit up red, as spirals of purplish-red flames swirled around its body, scorching and icy cold at the same time. White Kyurem's signature move, Ice Burn. With a roar, White Kyurem unleashed a purplish-red flame beam toward Ultra Necrozma. Photon geyser. The black hole-like energy condensed once more in front of Ultra Necrozma, turning golden before firing. Ice Burn and Photon Geyser collided fiercely, and the two terrifying energies clashed violently. White Kyurem's face contorted in extreme effort as it pushed Ice Burn to its limit. But soon, Photon Geyser began to overpower Ice Burn. With an incredulous look on White Kyurem's face, Photon Geyser continued to advance until it struck White Kyurem head-on. Boom! The explosion echoed painfully through the air, golden light illuminating the sky. White Kyurem's face twisted in agony as it plummeted to the ground like a broken kite, crashing for the third time. But soon after, White Kyurem, gasping for breath, rose into the sky again, shifting back to Dark Kyurem and launching another freeze shock at Ultra Necrozma. And then it was struck down again by Photon Geyser. This Kyurem is so stubborn. Dylan's expression was strange. Did Kyurem really need to keep exchanging blows with Ultra Necrozma to settle this? Or was it simply unable to accept that it was inferior to Ultra Necrozma in pure power? Perhaps it was that. This had once been an opponent Kyurem had bested, and now, just hours later, with a new look, it had surpassed Kyurem. For a proud and arrogant Kyurem, this was indeed hard to accept. Dylan remained silent, but maybe this wasn't so bad after all. After being struck down by Ultra Necrozma for the 5th time, Kyurem could no longer rise, lying on the ground, its chest heaving. It had no strength left to stand. Well, Kyurem? You've lost. Reshiram landed as Dylan stepped off and walked toward Kyurem, speaking calmly. Kyurem turned its head with difficulty, its golden eyes glancing at Dylan before remaining silent. A proud dragon like yourself wouldn't be a sore loser, would you? Dylan chuckled softly. He wasn't worried that Kyurem wouldn't admit defeat, though Kyurem hadn't explicitly stated that it would become his Pokémon upon losing. It was implicitly understood. Kyurem was too proud to deny it. Kyurem remained silent. Well then, welcome aboard, Kyurem. Dylan took out a luxury ball and tossed it at Kyurem. Lily, standing behind Dylan, held her breath, clasping her hands tightly together. The moment the ball touched Kyurem, it opened, absorbing the massive dragon into a beam of red light. The ball fell to the ground. Beep 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 ding. The ball shook 3 times before making a crisp sound and stopping. Lily's eyes widened as the ball stilled. That meant her brother had captured Kyurem. Oh my gosh! The atmosphere grew still for a moment under the darkened sky as the grayish-blue light from Ultra Necrozma illuminated the area. Reshiram looked at the deep red luxury ball with complicated emotions. Who could have imagined that one day it would be working with the ice dragon, Kyurem? Would Kyurem bully it every day from now on? But looking at it from a different perspective, with Kyurem as its second brother and Ultra Necrozma as the eldest, how would the black dragon even dare to fight it now? This was a sure win. The black dragon was doomed. Reality had truly surpassed ideals, this chosen hero was too fierce. Dylan slowly walked up to the luxury ball, bending down to pick it up. He wiped the dust off the ball, feeling its texture and weight, his grin growing wider. The legendary ice dragon, Kyurem, captured. Chapter 154, really? Come out, Kyurem. Dylan didn't hurry to leave, instead, he released the ice dragon, Kyurem. Kyurem appeared in its standard form, its golden dragon eyes fixed intently on Ultra Necrozma, as if lost in thought. Not bad, my Kyurem is still as imposing as ever, Dylan remarked, growing increasingly fond of his Kyurem as he sprayed it with a hyper potion. Though its appearance wasn't exactly beautiful, Kyurem's fierce look was certainly distinctive. Upon hearing this, Kyurem lifted its head slightly. I'm the most imposing one. Lily blinked her big eyes, feeling a little eager to approach Kyurem, but memories of its previous ferocity made her hesitate. How are you? Are your injuries still severe? After spraying a bottle of healing medicine on Kyurem, Dylan asked it. I've recovered a lot, Kyurem responded, moving its body and speaking in a deep, raspy voice through telepathy. It could clearly feel a significant improvement in its condition. Human medicines were quite effective. However, more than its physical state, it was still fixated on Ultra Necrozma. How could that being be so powerful? After staring at Ultra Necrozma for a while, Kyurem shifted its gaze to Reshiram, the white dragon, with an unrestrained intensity that made Reshiram's feathers stand on end. Creepy. Dylan, let me consume the white dragon. After some thought, Kyurem spoke to Dylan. Reshiram almost plastered a giant question mark onto Kyurem's face. Dylan chuckled, glancing at Reshiram. No, Kiram, we are all allies. Dylan shook his head at Kiram. If I devour the white dragon and then merge with the black dragon, I could return to my original form. If Kiram were in human form, its brows would certainly be furrowed at this moment. Compared to that useless white dragon, the dragon god form would naturally be more beneficial to you, and you wouldn't have to worry about me turning against you. Since I've decided to follow you, I won't betray you. Kiram spoke in a low tone. It was a proud ice dragon, and though it had a violent nature, it never went back on its word. That was its pride. Besides, a human's lifespan was a mere century. For a being like Kiram, favored by the world, 100 years was hardly more than a nap. A century was nothing to Kiram, so there was no need to break its promise. Reshiram stared at Kiram with its bright blue eyes. If it weren't for knowing it couldn't win, it would have lunged at the ice dragon to bite it. Was it even speaking a language? Kiram, you're too extreme. Interactions between lives shouldn't be judged solely by strength, Dylan sighed, patting Kiram as he spoke. Reshiram is my companion. Its strength may seem insignificant to you, but that doesn't matter to me. Dylan. What a great friend. A warm current flowed through Reshiram's heart, making the entire dragon feel cozy. As expected from the chosen hero, so touching. But even if it gets scared and doesn't dare to fight, even if it only yells about beating Zekrom, even if its holy appearance hides a sea king's nature, it's still my white dragon. Reshiram's expression turned blank. It no longer felt touched at all. Allies should not harm each other, Kiram. You may not understand this since you've never had much interaction with others, but you need to remember this, Dylan said with a smile, seemingly oblivious to the resentful gaze from behind. Kiram looked puzzled upon hearing this. Allies? It never had allies. At best, the white dragon and black dragon were its kin. Yet, Kiram hardly acknowledged that. Boring. But soon, it snorted disdainfully. The strong should never lower themselves to interact with the weak. That was its definition of being a strong one. Even if it became Dylan's partner, it wouldn't abandon its pride. No worries, take your time. Dylan shrugged. He didn't expect Kiram's mindset to change quickly after just being captured. It wasn't surprising for a being like Kiram to have its own will. Let's head to a nearby city for some food. Dylan glanced at his phone's map. This area was a bit remote, but it wasn't a big deal. Kiram, I'll need you to give us a ride. With his destination set, Dylan recalled Ultra Necrozma and the White Dragon, who was casting a gloomy glance. Dylan, you big traitor. Now that you have an ice dragon, you're not riding me anymore? This ice dragon is all cold and stiff, it's nowhere near as soft and warm as my feathers. However, Dylan indeed wanted to try riding an ice dragon for a change. Roar! Kiram did not refuse, raising its head and roaring as flames burst over its body, transforming into its white Kiram form. Since it had already decided to follow Dylan for a century, Kiram naturally accepted him. Lily, come on. Dylan sat atop white Kiram, extending his hand to Lily as the dragon's golden eyes squinted slightly. Lily's heart pounded as white Kiram's golden gaze bore down on her, making her feel goosebumps. Yet, seeing her brother on the dragon's back, she took his hand and climbed up. She was on. From riding the white dragon to now riding the ice dragon, mother, your daughter is truly accomplished. Lily was filled with excitement. She was probably the second human in the world to ride Kiram. It was just a little uncomfortable. Lily shifted her position, its icy touch was even more chilling than Articuno. Personal review, riding Kiram wasn't as comfortable as Reshiram, but Lily wouldn't dare say that out loud. White Kiram snorted uneasily. Having humans on its back felt strange. Let's go, Kiram. Roar! With a thunderous roar, white Kiram, surrounded by red and blue light, soared into the sky and flew toward a specific direction. Meanwhile, on the other side, Zekrom, are you all right? And stood in a forest, startled to see Zekrom wobbling through the sky. Boom! Zekrom landed heavily, but almost stumbled as it did, alarming N. Zekrom. I'm okay, N. Some unknown guy saved me. Zekrum's weak and tired telepathic voice reached N, causing him to breathe a sigh of relief. N quickly took out a hyper potion and an ice heal to spray on Zekrum. That Dylan guy. Seeing the injuries and frostbite on Zekrum's body, N felt a deep pain, thinking about Dylan. Even someone as calm as N couldn't help but grit his teeth. Dylan. You're really unforgivable. How could you do this? Tricking us into taking the blame for your mess. You should be responsible for your own mistakes, that's a basic principle even children understand. White Dragon. Zekrum was also grinding its teeth at the moment. It knew Reshiram might appear pure and sacred on the surface, but it was definitely dark on the inside. This beating today was totally undeserved. The ice dragon had hit hard without holding back, it hurt like crazy. N, once I recover, let's go find the white dragon and its hero. Alright. Zekrum just couldn't swallow this grievance, it was completely innocent. N immediately agreed. Dylan had truly gone too far this time, and N wanted to vent his anger too. But just then, N's phone rang. N, we have a lead on the person who framed Father. Getsus's voice was as cold as ice. Who is it? N frowned. He couldn't forgive someone who harmed his father and was determined to seek justice. The Unova League released the news. I'll send you the link. N, this person is definitely a major enemy on our path to ideals. You have to defeat him. Getsus said sternly. I understand, Father. N nodded and then opened the news interview video sent by Getsus. Seeing the handsome, black-haired youth in the video, N's previously dull eyes began to flash. It's you again. Dylan. Father, he's the one chosen by the Dragon of Truth. Getsus was momentarily stunned, then gritted his teeth. How could such a vile person gain Reshiram's recognition? Disgusting. Does Reshiram not care about good and evil? Bah. Very well. That's perfect. N, get ready. Once we confirm this guy's location, you're going to defeat him. Getsus spoke sternly. The one chosen by the Dragon of Truth was indeed formidable, which explained why Getsus couldn't defeat him. But it didn't matter. My adopted son is invincible. A mere white dragon and its hero, N, will surely win. Besides, Kores had revived Genesect, they could ambush Reshiram directly. How could they lose? After N defeated this scoundrel, how should he humiliate him? A cold, sinister smile crept onto Getsus's face. This guy was courting death by crossing him. At Driftvale City, a port city in Unova, the name Driftvale means sail in whirlpool. Driftvale was known as the gateway to the Unova region, a hub for many shipping routes. Although Unova was shrouded in darkness, the port was still bustling with lights. Yes, Ultra Necrozma was no longer draining the light, so normal lighting was functional. Hence, Driftvale City appeared just like any other night. But in reality, it was still different. It wasn't even 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Dylan and Lily had arrived at Driftvale City, the nearest city to their location. On their way, the Unova League had also contacted him, and his reward had already been arranged for him here in Driftvale. In front of the Driftvale gym, Dylan and Lily found 3 people waiting for them. One of them was a burly, rough-looking man wearing a black bowler hat, dressed like a nouveau riche, the gym leader, Clay. Beside Clay stood a sweet, innocent-looking girl with short pink hair, wearing a long pink coat over a white top with a red tie and blue pants. Dylan raised an eyebrow. She was Clay's daughter, Lacey, ranked 3rd among the Elite 4 of the Blueberry Academy. The last person was a middle-aged man with long orange hair. His distinctive outfit and the pokeball hanging from his neck identified him as Alder, the current champion of Unova. Ha, it seems our guests have arrived. Dylan, the gym leader, nice to meet you. Noticing Dylan and Lily approaching, Alder's eyes lit up, and he laughed warmly. Clay and Lacey looked over with curiosity. Champion Alder, you're too kind. Dylan approached the 3 and spoke with polite humility. This isn't just politeness. Getsus is ambitious, cunning, and quite capable. Capturing him is no easy task. Alder clapped Dylan on the shoulder, his demeanor enthusiastic. "Dylan, it's impressive you caught him. I heard you're a gym leader from Kanto. Ever thought about coming to Unova? You're still young, right? Let me tell you, if your skills are good enough, I'll give you my position as champion. Plus, Unova has plenty of beautiful women. I've traveled all over Unova these past few years, so I know what I'm talking about, like Tyrant Rum and Little Rosa, for example. What do you think, Dylan? If you come to Unova, I'll personally introduce you to a girlfriend." Alder's arm was around Dylan's shoulder as he spoke with boisterous enthusiasm, as if ready to recruit him on the spot. Meanwhile, Clay, Lacey, and Lily were all sporting looks of shock. Unova's champion? Really? Chapter 155, What Does Golden Mean? Lacey covered her mouth with her small hands, staring in shock at the champion Alder, who was speaking confidently. At this moment, her idealized image of a champion cracked. Cough, cough, cough. Clay kept coughing, trying to interrupt Alder. He understood Alder, but this was still in front of the younger generation. Come on, Alder, pay attention to your image. Champion Alder, isn't that a bit inappropriate? Dylan said with a laugh, looking at Alder, who was acting as if they were best buddies. Though Alder seemed somewhat unprofessional, in reality, he was an extremely responsible and reliable senior. The reason he had become this carefree was mainly due to what happened years ago. While protecting the Unova League, Alder's Pokemon partner overexerted itself and became critically weak, eventually passing away. This had been a huge blow to Alder. Alder had since lost interest in battles. To fill the emptiness in his heart after losing his partner, he wandered across Unova, focusing on the bond between trainers and Pokemon. But when the Unova League faced a real crisis, Alder would undoubtedly step up to protect everyone. In the original story, when N brought Zekrom to pursue his ideals, it was Alder who stood in his way, facing the legendary Dragon of Ideals and continually trying to persuade N to turn back. But unfortunately, the outcome was tragic. In a battle where he staked his champion's will, the battle-rusty Alder was defeated by Zekrom, and his already weakened fighting spirit took another severe blow. It wasn't until Black and White 2 that Iris ascended as the Unova champion, giving Alder peace of mind to leave the Unova League. Though Alder now seemed like a wanderer, Dylan still respected him. For a powerful trainer with a sense of responsibility and a kind heart, Dylan always showed respect. It's no big deal. I just handle the introductions. Whether it works out is up to you guys, right? Alder laughed heartily, unbothered. He felt that he was old now. If there were someone in Unova to take his place, he would have resigned long ago. Now, traveling around Unova, he was also looking for a suitable successor. He had already spotted some promising juniors. Lacey, Clay's daughter, had great talent and strength. But whether she could reach champion level in the future depended on her own luck. But Dylan was different. Alder had specially investigated him. According to some rumors, Dylan had even defeated Lance. Though he wasn't sure if the rumor was true, it was confirmed that Dylan had beaten Ghetsis' Hydreigon so badly that it didn't dare resist. Dylan was definitely talented. Stare. Lily widened her eyes, glaring at this Unova champion. This guy wasn't a good person. He was eyeing her brother. Thank you for your kindness, senior, but I currently have no plans to switch regions, Dylan said with a warm smile, politely declining. He liked Kanto, as the headquarters of the Pokemon League. It was more interesting than other regions. Ha, that's fine. But no plans now doesn't mean never. Dylan, feel free to visit Unova more often. You're always welcome. Alder wasn't forceful, knowing that this kind of thing ultimately depended on the person's will. However, Alder clearly hadn't given up on recruiting Dylan. Champion Alder, it's getting late. Why don't you invite Dylan and this young lady for a meal? Clay couldn't hold back anymore. You're our Unova champion, for goodness sake. Oh right, Dylan, and this lovely young lady, let's go eat, Alder said, patting his forehead and inviting Dylan and Lily. The five of them then headed to a famous restaurant in Oplucid City, where they booked a private room. Oh, by the way, Dylan, let me introduce you. This is Clay, gym leader of Oplucid City, and this is his daughter Lacey. Lacey is currently a second-year student at Blueberry Academy and is already one of the Academy's elite 4 members. Alder smiled as he introduced the two. Nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. I'm Dylan, gym leader of Rhoda City in Kanto, and this is my sister, Lily. Hello. Lily nodded and smiled politely, curiously sizing up the robust Clay and the cute, pretty Lacey. These two, they didn't exactly look alike. It wasn't that they didn't resemble each other at all, but judging from appearances alone, they hardly seemed like father and daughter. Haha, do you think Clay and Lacey look nothing alike? I think so too. But it's fine, Lacey took after her mother entirely. If she looked like Clay, now that would be a disaster. Alder laughed loudly. Clay twitched at that comment but let it go. He's the champion, I won't argue with him. Champion Alder, I think that's not very nice of you. Lacey said with a serious face, crossing her arms to make an X. My dad has worked hard to grow like this. Champion Alder, you shouldn't say such things about him. A daughter who defends her dad, but... Clay lit a cigarette with a troubled look, not sure whether to feel touched or worried. Dylan glanced at Clay and almost laughed. Then, with great interest, he looked at Lacey. So, this is the I think that's not very nice type of person. Senior Lacey is just adorable. It was just a joke, huh? Alder scratched his head. Oh, Dylan, here's a gift from the Unova League. Suddenly, Alder seemed to remember something and handed Dylan a shrunken Ultra Ball. We asked the Kanto League about it, and President Goodshow mentioned that you've always wanted a Dano. Haha, it's quite a coincidence. Alder chuckled. After all, one of the most famous Pokemon in Unova was Hydreigon. As the pseudo-legendary of Unova, Hydreigon was very strong, one of the few pseudo-legendaries known for its special attack prowess. Thank you, Champion Alder. Dylan didn't hesitate, accepting the Ultra Ball. Exchanging Getsus for a Dano was certainly worth it for Dylan. Waste not, want not. But this afternoon, while Getsus was being transferred to Oplucid City's prison, he was rescued by a dragon trainer with a black dragon. As Alder said this, his brow furrowed. He couldn't understand why Zekrom would follow the leader of an evil organization. Dylan, be careful. Getsus is an ambitious man who holds grudges. Since you captured him and sent him to jail, he won't let you off easily. Alder warned Dylan, concerned that Team Plasma would retaliate. Getsus was N's adoptive father and held a high position in Team Plasma. Lily tilted her head, her expression strange. Getsus wants to take revenge on her brother? Lily was already looking forward to the moment Getsus came knocking. Don't worry, Champion Alder. Team Plasma can't harm me, Dylan replied with a smile, not taking the news seriously. Given N's admiration for Getsus, it wasn't surprising that he rescued him. As for Team Plasma seeking revenge, Dylan could only say, bring it on. The young people these days are really great. Alder greatly admired Dylan's calm and composed words. This confidence was exactly what he appreciated. The meal was already served, and as the 5 of them ate, they chatted about the cultural differences between Unova and Kanto. Alder showed a lot of interest in Kanto. According to him, he had visited Kanto when he was younger, but it was just a brief trip before he returned to Unova to assume the role of champion. Once he found a suitable successor, Alder planned to step down as champion of Unova and embark on a world tour to relax. I've heard, Dylan, that you are a multi-type trainer and have already assembled 5 different teams for challengers? Clay asked with curiosity. As fellow gym leaders, Clay and Dylan found they had plenty of topics in common. That's right. Currently, I offer 5 different types for challengers to face, Dylan nodded. Indeed, there were 5 types, including the Dragon Team and the Golden Section. Speaking of which, his Golden Section team was complete now, though he wondered if any challengers could defeat the first 3 Pokemon and push him to use Reshiram and the other 2 legendary Pokemon. Does each team correspond to a single type, or do you select a team randomly for each challenger? Lacey asked curiously. It's not random. My brother's gym has a special spinning device. The challenger presses a button, and whichever type the spinner lands on, that's the team I use to battle them, Lily answered in a soft and refined voice. Wow, I think that setup is super fun. Lacey's eyes lit up. That way, every time someone challenged the Rota gym, there could be a different surprise. If you find it interesting, why don't you give it a try yourself, Lacey? Alder stroked his chin and encouraged her. Lacey was quite tempted. Although Blueberry Academy had a ranking system that fostered competition among students, challenging a gym still held great appeal to her. Especially a gym in the Kanto region. Huh? But isn't gym leader Dylan on vacation right now? Lacey was intrigued but also hesitant, not wanting to inconvenience anyone. It's no trouble at all. If you're interested, Miss Lacey, consider it a bit of post-dinner exercise, Dylan said with a smile. Then, please guide me, gym leader Dylan. Lacey stood up, smiling brightly. She was thrilled at the opportunity to battle such a renowned gym leader from Kanto, believing it would be a valuable learning experience. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect to witness a battle between Dylan and Lacey today. What a treat! Alder laughed heartily, enjoying the idea of watching the younger generation engage in a passionate Pokemon battle. Though in truth, it had been a long, long time since Alder himself had battled. Dylan, you better be careful. Lacey is one of the 4 elites of Blueberry Academy now, and her strength has even surpassed Clay's, Alder added with a chuckle. Understood, I'll take this battle with Miss Lacey seriously, Dylan responded with a light laugh and a nod. Blueberry Academy was a sister school to Orange Academy, but unlike the long-established Orange Academy, Blueberry Academy was a more recent institution, focused on Pokemon battle education. Blueberry Academy even had its own internal Elite Four and Champion system. Though these titles were only recognized within the academy, standing out among so many students to become one of the Elite Four was indeed impressive, and Lacey's skills were certainly formidable. But there's no spinner here. Gym leader Dylan, how will I randomly select the type I'll battle against? Lacey asked, tapping her chin. She was eager to experience the thrill of random selection. It's simple. Lily tore a piece of paper into 4 parts, wrote down the types, and crumpled them into balls, shaking them in her hand. Please choose one, Miss Lacey, Dylan gestured toward the paper balls. Gym leader Dylan, isn't something off here? Lacey looked at the 4 paper balls. Didn't you say there were 5 teams? Lacey tilted her head, puzzled. Was he intentionally leaving out a team? There was no need for that, she didn't mind at all. Lily's face turned slightly red as she hastily wrote Golden on a 5th slip and mixed the papers again before laying them on the table. Clay and Alder, intrigued, leaned in to watch. Lacey stared at the 5 paper balls, deep in thought, unsure which one to pick. Lacey, trust me. Pick this one in the middle. It's definitely the easiest team to battle. Alder, acting like an experienced elder, immediately persuaded Lacey to choose the middle paper ball. Alright, I'll trust you, Champion Alder. Lacey sighed helplessly but gave in. After all, a champion's advice had to count for something. She picked up the paper ball, opened it, and froze. Well, what type is it? Alder asked eagerly. Gym leader Dylan, I'm a bit confused. What does golden mean? Lacey blinked, staring at the slip of paper in her hand. Chapter 156, Golden. Dylan, gym leader, what is this golden team? Lacey looked puzzled. Is there even a golden type among all the Pokemon types? It didn't seem like it. Lily's delicate little face showed a very subtle expression. In the Rota gym, the chance of spinning to the golden section on the roulette is about 1%, so much so that even though she had been at the Rota gym for over a month, Lily had never seen a challenger land on it. But there were only 5 paper balls just now, so technically the chance of drawing golden became 1 in 5, which was actually unfair. That's why Dylan had only let Rosa choose from 4 teams before, and Lily had specifically excluded the golden section just now. However, Lacey brought up the existence of the 5th challenge team, so Lily had no choice but to include it, otherwise, would she have to say, if you draw the golden section, you just win a prize? Miss Lacey, Your luck is truly amazing, Dylan couldn't help but marvel. Lily. Huh? Really? Lacey tilted her head in confusion, but why did Lily's expression look so strange? Was this really what luck meant? Ha ha ha, I knew it, Lacey, the team I picked for you can't be that bad, right? I'm the Unova champion after all. Alder laughed heartily, hands on his hips, looking very proud. Thank you very much, Champion Alder. Lacey still felt something was off but politely thanked Alder nonetheless. Since the team is decided, let's head to my gym for the battle. The field outside isn't bright enough, Clay suggested. His Driftvale gym was conveniently nearby. Let's go, I can't wait any longer. Alder seemed quite eager, as he was very curious to see how strong Dylan was in person. The five of them finished paying and left the restaurant, and the sky outside remained pitch black. It's truly dark now. How odd, how did it suddenly become like this? Alder stared at the night sky, bewildered. The abrupt transition from day to night was inexplicable, without any warning. The Unova League was still investigating the cause, but they hadn't figured it out yet. Moreover, this darkness seemed to only cover the Unova region. Other regions didn't experience this strange phenomenon. Could it be that Unova is haunted? Who knows? Maybe it's just some special natural occurrence. It couldn't be caused by a Pokemon, right? As long as it's not dangerous, it'll probably go back to normal by tomorrow. Dylan mused before replying, while Lily kept her head down, too nervous to speak or look up. True, at least nothing unusual has happened so far. Alder agreed after thinking it over. There wasn't much else they could do but wait and see what tomorrow brought. Huh? Lily, what's wrong? It's dangerous to walk without looking where you're going. Alder kindly reminded Lily, noticing her strange demeanor out of the corner of his eye. Yes, thank you for the reminder, Champion Alder. Lily quickly looked up and sincerely thanked Alder. Strange. Alder was a bit taken aback by her exaggerated response, but then he recalled that Lily was indeed very polite, so he didn't think too much of it. Ugh. I'm still too inexperienced. I need to continue learning from my brother. Realizing that Alder didn't seem to have connected the dots, Lily silently lamented to herself. When would she ever develop the same unshakable composure as her brother, who remained calm even in the face of a crumbling mountain? Driftvale Gym. This was Clay's gym. Clay was originally from Driftvale City, but Lacey had grown up in Nimbasa City, likely to give her a more beautiful childhood. In addition to being the gym leader of Driftvale, Clay was also the owner of a mining company, making him quite the tycoon. His nickname, after all, was the Underground Boss. Yes, he had a strong mob boss vibe, which might explain why he didn't want his daughter, Lacey, to be influenced by that part of his life. That's why he let her grow up in Nimbasa City and sent her to Blueberry Academy to become an elite. And Lacey certainly lived up to Clay's expectations. By her second year, she had already become one of the Elite Four at Blueberry Academy, and now her strength had even surpassed her father's. Her future at the very least would see her rise to the rank of an elite trainer. The group entered Driftvale Gym, and the bright lights inside the gym were switched on, illuminating the entire space as if it were daylight. I'm a ground-type trainer, so my battlefield leans toward ground-type advantages. If you're not used to it, I can change it to a regular battlefield, Clay said to Dylan. It's fine, I'm comfortable with any battlefield, Dylan replied, shaking his head. A ground-type field wasn't too different from a standard one, except the ground was less level. Miss Lacey, shall we begin? Yes. Dylan and Lacey took their positions on opposite sides of the battlefield, and the scoreboard activated. Let me be the referee. Alder enthusiastically pushed Clay aside, stepping onto the battlefield. The Rota Gym Badge Challenge is now beginning. The challenger is Lacey. The battle format is 4-on-4. If all four of Lacey's Pokemon lose the ability to battle, the challenge will be considered a failure. The gym leader Dylan will send out his Pokemon first and may not switch Pokemon mid-battle. Let the battle begin. Lacey, good luck, you're using the lucky team I picked for you. Alder professionally announced the battle rules and then stepped off the battlefield, cheering for the cute Lacey. Lacey discreetly rolled her eyes. She wasn't sure how lucky she actually was. Before the battle, Miss Lacey, allow me to introduce myself. Dylan undid the top button of his black shirt and casually let it hang open, his demeanor shifting noticeably to a more relaxed and confident one. My name is Dylan, the gym leader of Rhoda. I specialize in multi-type battles, and I choose my team based on the faith that guides the challenger. His clear, carefree voice with a faint smile echoed through the gym. Wow, Dylan really knows how to show off, doesn't he? Alder crossed his arms, resting his chin on his hand, nodding with approval. Clay's mouth twitched, and he glanced at the elegant, black-clad youth, falling into thought. The difference in introductions was stark. Dylan as a gym leader seemed to be on a completely different level than me. I need to think of some deep and impressive lines to say to challengers too. Miss Lacey, you are incredibly fortunate. Since I became the gym leader of Rhoda, you're only the second person to draw the golden section. Dylan took out a crimson-colored luxury ball and gently rotated it. Only two? Lacey was taken aback. Something didn't seem quite right. That's correct, Miss Lacey. Have you heard the stories of legends? Dylan tilted his head slightly, his eyes reflecting the young girl's image. Without waiting for her response, he spoke again. The stories that people pass down through generations, the legends hidden in ancient ruins, the myths preserved in historic temples, are you familiar with any of these? Hearing this, Lacey paused for a moment. As a top student of Blueberry Academy, she had indeed heard some stories about Unova's legends, but what does that have to do with this battle? Let me rephrase the question, Miss Lacey. Have you ever seen a legendary Pokemon? No. Lacey suddenly felt a strong sense of unease. Well then, congratulations, Miss Lacey. From today onward, you can claim that you have, Dylan said teasingly. You are about to battle a legendary Pokemon. Boom. Lacey's mind went blank. What? What does that mean? Even Alder and Clay in the audience were stunned. Gym leader Dylan, you don't mean. Lacey's voice was dry. The golden section represents the team of golden legends, Miss Lacey. You will be facing me at my strongest. I will battle you with a team of legendary Pokemon, and if you manage to defeat me, you will earn the most precious Rhoda badge of legend. Even if you don't defeat my legendary team, if you earn my approval, you will still receive a random type Rhoda badge. Hearing this, Lacey was utterly shocked. So then, Miss Lacey, let's officially begin this gym battle. Dylan smiled at Lacey and tossed the luxury ball in his hand. Regirock, prepare for battle. Reg 3. A low, mechanical-like roar echoed as the giant Pokemon landed heavily in front of Dylan. 7 glowing dots on its head slowly lit up. One of the legendary giants, Regirock. Lacey stared blankly at the incredibly imposing Regirock. A legendary Regirock? Isn't this a bit too much? Clay felt bad for his daughter. I mean, really? A Regirock? This was just a gym challenge. Dylan actually used a legendary Pokemon in the battle? Wait a minute. Clay shot a glare that could kill at the Unova champion beside him. Right, if this guy hadn't encouraged his precious daughter to pick the middle slip of paper, how could Lacey have drawn the ridiculous Golden Legends section? Amazing, Dylan. Do you really have a whole team of legendary Pokemon? Alder's eyes gleamed with wonder. It makes me want to try battling Dylan's team myself, legendary Pokemon, wow. Clay, why are you glaring at me like that? Alder suddenly noticed the strange look and turned to Clay in confusion. What do you think? If you think about it differently, this really is quite lucky. Alder awkwardly turned away and muttered. Lucky? Clay twitched again. Come on, how many people dream of battling a legendary Pokemon? You can't deny that. Alder grew more confident, his voice rising. That's right, legendary Pokemon are so rare and precious that most people never see one in their entire lives. If Lacey could prove herself, she might see 4 legendary Pokemon. Isn't that lucky? Hearing this, Clay thought for a moment. Well, it's true, isn't it? But on the field, poor Miss Lacey was in a state of utter confusion. Miss Lacey, it's your turn to send out your Pokemon, Dylan gestured to her. Lacey took a deep breath, forcing herself to calm down, but seeing the overwhelming presence of Regirock on the other side, her head started spinning. Gulp. She couldn't help but swallow nervously. Champion Alder, I'm going to thank you for the rest of my life. Chapter 157, Send this away. But no matter how you think about it, I'm just a student. Lacey pressed her lips tightly together. To suddenly battle a legendary Pokemon. Miss Lacey, you can relax a bit, it's just a gym battle, Dylan said soothingly, noticing her barely concealed tension. Winning or losing doesn't affect you. What you need to do is put your all into this battle, show me everything you've got and reach your limits. As one of the Elite Four from Blueberry Academy, you must have learned a lot. Dylan's voice was gentle. After all, she was still just a student. There was a big gap between her and mature, strong-willed trainers. Lacey's strength might surpass old Agatha, but if Agatha were standing opposite her, she wouldn't be this flustered. Agatha was a seasoned middle-aged woman whose will and temperament were far beyond Lacey's. But Lacey's potential far exceeded Agatha's, she just needed more growth. Breathe in deep breath. Lacey's chest rose and fell as she tried to steady her emotions. Yes, this is just a gym battle. No matter the outcome, it won't change anything. At worst, she wouldn't get the gym badge. Gym leader Dylan, I'm going for it. Lacey closed her eyes, tightened the pink hairpin in her hair, then, after preparing herself, she took out a Pokeball, aimed it at Dylan, and her clear voice steadied. The Blueberry Academy's Elite Four member Lacey has issued a challenge. Go ahead. Dylan smiled. Primarina. Lacey pressed her lips together, her face solemn as she threw her first Pokeball. With a melodious cry, a Pokemon resembling a mermaid appeared before Lacey. With sea-green curly hair and sapphire blue eyes as bright as gems, its body was white with a blue tail. It was Primarina, the final evolution of the Alola region's starter Pokemon Poplio. Primarina, Lily sighed, seeing a starter from her own region in another place. Deep Primarina, Water/Fairy type, the soloist Pokemon. Ability, Liquid Voice. Moves, Hyper Voice, Misty Terrain, Encore, Sparkling Aria, Protect, Hydro Pump, Life Dew, Egg Move. Description, known as the Diva, its singing in the moonlight leading its group is fantastical. Using a water-type Primarina to counter Regirock? A good choice, Alder nodded, assessing the strategy. Regirock, being a pure rock type, was naturally weak to water types. This Primarina has been raised very well, Miss Lacey. It's quite beautiful. Dylan complimented, noticing that this Primarina was bigger than the standard size and its hair and skin had a healthy shine, showing its vitality. Of course. I like my Pokemon cute, beautiful, and clean, so I give them baths 3 times a day. Lacey said with a sweet smile. As a fairy-type specialist, she adored cute Pokemon. Well then, here I come, Gym Leader Dylan. Lacey's eyes sharpened slightly. Though the outcome didn't matter, no trainer would step onto the battlefield without aiming for victory. Besides, this was a gym battle. If she could defeat Gym Leader Dylan, she'd earn his gym badge. According to him, this was a very rare Rota badge. Go ahead, Dylan invited once more. Primarina, use Sparkling Aria. Lacey wasted no time launching her attack. Primarina sang, its melodious voice filling the air, while water swirled, and orbs of water began forming above it. Sparkling Aria, a water-type move, was ready to strike Regirock. Earthquake. Dylan smiled faintly. Regirock lifted one foot and slammed it down. Ground-type Earthquake. Boom. The battlefield shook violently, sending shockwaves toward Primarina. It was clear Regirock intended to trade hits, but Earthquake wasn't super effective against Primarina, whereas Sparkling Aria was strong against Regirock. Primarina. Lacey's mind raced, deciding to play it safe. Primarina cancelled its sparkling aura and released a bubble, quickly jumping into it to float above the ground, avoiding the earthquake's shockwave. "Regirock, Stone Edge," Dylan commanded, noticing the large floating bubble. Primarina's unique ability to create these soft, sturdy bubbles was impressive. But it also made for an easy target. "Reggie!" Regirock raised its arms, sharp rocks forming in front of it, shooting towards the airborne Primarina. "Primarina, dodge it!" Lacey quickly called out. Primarina reacted swiftly, leaping out of the bubble just as the Stone Edge smashed into it. But as Regirock adjusted its aim, the remaining sharp stones shot towards the descending Primarina. Lacey's face paled. There was no way to dodge this. Bang! 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 The Stone Edge struck Primarina directly, and it let out a pained cry as the rocks exploded around it. When the dust settled, Primarina was left panting heavily, clearly injured. Lacey exhaled slightly in relief. Thankfully, only a small portion of the stones had hit. Otherwise, she wasn't sure if Primarina would have endured. Primarina's physical defense was quite weak. That Regirock is strong. Stone Edge isn't even super effective against Primarina, Alder commented, rubbing his chin. Even though Primarina had poor defense, only part of the attack had landed. It was a testament to the power difference. Regirock was legendary, after all. Dylan's pretty impressive. But where did he catch that Regirock? If I remember correctly, Hoen's Brandon already caught one, Alder mused. Regirock was famous, mainly because it had already been caught by Hoen's Brandon. Who knew Dylan had found a second one? That Regirock was caught by my brother near Rhoda not too long ago, Lily responded with a composed smile. Oh? Lily, tell me, does Dylan have more legendary Pokemon? Alder grinned, clearly intrigued. It seemed like Dylan had more than just one legendary. After all, this was a 4 versus 4 battle. Surely Dylan wouldn't have only one legendary, right? But that seemed over the top. He does. My brother has gathered a full team of them, Lily said with a playful wink. Hiss. Hearing this, Alder and Leader Clay exchanged glances, both seeing the shock in each other's eyes. What the? Which specific legends are you talking about? Alder snapped back to reality, his curiosity overflowing. I can't tell you that, Champion Alder, Lily apologized to him. Lily, it's not right to leave someone hanging like this, Alder said helplessly, his curiosity now skyrocketing. On the battlefield. Going head-to-head isn't wise, Lacey pressed her lips together, constantly thinking of a strategy. Primarina, surf. Primarina let out a resonant call, and a deep blue light illuminated the waters. Crash crash. The sound of waves echoed as a massive tidal wave surged out of nowhere, carrying Primarina towards Regirock. A water-type surf attack. Earthquake, Dylan ordered calmly. Regirock stomped heavily on the ground, sending a shockwave forward. The base of the wave was shattered by the tremor, and the giant wave collapsed as Primarina began to fall. Primarina, Ice Beam. Lacey quickly called out. Primarina's mouth glowed with icy energy, and a twisting, ice blue beam shot out. The remnants of the collapsed surf were quickly frozen into crystals, crashing towards Regirock. Oh? Not a bad idea, Dylan raised an eyebrow. Lacey had clearly anticipated that surf would be interrupted, so the ice beam was prepared as a backup. But it's not enough. The strategy was solid, but it was ineffective against Regirock. Those ice crystals wouldn't pose any real threat to its rock-hard body. The ice fell and shattered upon impact with Regirock's body, as fragile as paper against its incredibly tough physique. Regirock's physical defense was simply too high. Hydro Pump. Lacey wasn't done yet. Stone Edge. As Primarina landed, a deep blue water glow gathered in its mouth, and a massive water jet shot towards Regirock. Meanwhile, ice continued pelting Regirock, though it ignored them like mere gusts of wind. Floating stones formed around Regirock, and with a powerful arm swing, they shot forward. Boom! Stone Edge collided with Hydro Pump, the two attacks clashing intensely. But soon enough, the stones overpowered the water and slammed into Primarina, causing a fierce explosion. Primarina! Strong gusts of wind blew outward, but Lacey shielded her face with her arm, calling out worriedly to her Primarina. Unfortunately, Primarina was no longer able to respond. When the dust settled, Primarina was lying on the ground, with fainted eyes. Primarina is unable to battle. Regirock wins. Alder quickly stepped in to announce the result. On the scoreboard, Primarina's icon dimmed completely. Lacey pursed her lips, recalled her Primarina, and looked up at Regirock with a frown. Its defense was high, and its attack wasn't low either. She would need a fast Pokemon to counter it. Well done, your strategy was sound, just lacking a bit of power, Dylan praised Lacey, giving her credit. Miss Lacey, my Regirock's physical defense is much higher than most normal Pokemon. Yes, I understand, Leader Dylan. Lacey took a deep breath. It was indeed very powerful, but that's what made it a worthy challenge. But how could she deal with Regirock? She thought for a moment. Maybe it was time to switch opponents. Granbull. I'm counting on you. After some thought, Lacey released her second Pokemon. A light purple, bulldog-like creature appeared in front of her. Its wrists and neck had black bands, its jaw featured large fangs, and it tilted its head slightly, looking quite fierce. It was the Fairy-type Granbull. Beep Granbull, Fairy-type Pokemon. Ability, Intimidate. Moves, Play Rough, Roar, Headbutt, Ice Fang, Fire Fang, Thunder Fang, Outrage, Stomp. Description: Granbull has a highly developed jaw. Due to the weight of its teeth, its head tilts, and it doesn't bite unless startled. Lily tilted her head slightly. Was this Granbull supposed to be cute? Well, she wasn't a fan of such fierce-looking Pokemon. On the battlefield, Granbull glared fiercely at Regirock, but Regirock wasn't fazed. With its clear body ability, Regirock's attack wouldn't be lowered. Miss Lacey, I just mentioned my Regirock's physical defense is extremely high, Dylan reminded her, as Granbull was purely a physical attacker. I know, but I'm not planning to have it fight Regirock. A sweet smile appeared on Lacey's face. Dylan was taken aback. Could it be that? Miss Lacey, I advise you. Granbull, roar! Roar! Granbull let out a thunderous roar at Regirock, and a mysterious energy surged forward, sending Regirock back into Dylan's ball in a flash of white light. At the same time, another Pokeball on Dylan's belt opened, and a different Pokemon emerged. Yes! It worked! Lacey pumped her small fists excitedly. Roar had successfully forced Regirock out. Its high defense and strong attack were too tough to deal with, so she decided to switch opponents instead. Even if it was another legendary Pokemon, it couldn't be harder than Regirock, right? Lacey's smile froze. The elegant, pure white dragon Reshiram looked around in confusion, then glanced back at Dylan. What was going on? Wasn't it just sleeping in its Pokeball? It had been dreaming of punching Zekrom and kicking Kyurem, ruling the world. The whole Driftvale gym fell silent. Dylan sighed and rubbed his forehead. He spoke a little too late. He'd wanted to warn Lacey not to use moves like Roar. Heh, he. Lacey looked in horror at the white dragon, which seemed to be a legendary figure in Unova's founding myths. Her lips trembled into a forced laugh, but she could barely manage it. Ah! Granbull! Quick, use Roar! Send this dragon away! Her panic scream echoed through the entire Driftvale gym. Chapter 158, Mom, I'm scared. Lacey was almost stunned. She only thought Regirock was a bit hard to deal with, so she wanted to switch opponents, but what did she just shout out? What was that? This. Looking at the elegant, pure white dragon, even Alder and Granbull were both shocked at the moment. Is this the white dragon Reshiram from the founding legends? Dylan actually gained Reshiram's allegiance? Alder regained his composure, though his voice could not hide his astonishment. This was definitely the real dragon god Reshiram. It looked too much like the one from the legends. That's right. When my brother came to Unova, he was chosen by Reshiram. We went to Dragon Spiral Tower, and my brother successfully awakened Reshiram. Lily's delicate, fair face was glowing with a beautiful smile, and her tone was filled with pride. She had every right to be proud, especially seeing the shock in Alder and Granbull's expressions. Lily felt even more honored. After all, that was her proud adoptive brother. This is unbelievable. Granbull's expression was complex. The dragon god legends of Unova had been passed down for nearly 1,000 years. Most people in Unova only regarded it as a legend, but when the news came from Kanto recently that the plasma team's leader, N, had gained the recognition of the black dragon Zekrom, things became real again. N's ideals were also extremely radical. And now the white dragon had been awakened, but good news, the one who awakened the white dragon is an alliance trainer. And not so bad news, he's a gym leader from the Kanto region, not the Unova League. So, this guy came to Unova just to steal their real dragon god. Alder realized this as well, feeling quite helpless. The two legendary dragon gods of Unova, one had been taken by the leader of an evil organization, and the other was about to be taken by someone from another region. This wasn't exactly good news for the Unova League. Even though the Pokemon League stood united to deal with N and his Zekrom, it would be ideal to have Reshiram on their side. We have to convince Dylan to join Unova. Alder silently made up his mind. He knew the situation well, he was the only champion-level power in Unova right now. Trying to take on Zekrom was almost impossible unless they could set up a trap to lure it in and use advanced technology to interfere with it. But that was very hard to achieve, nearly impossible. However, if Dylan were to join Unova, everything would be easily resolved. Alder was sure of one thing, Dylan was absolutely a champion-level trainer. And with Dylan on their side, Unova could rise again. Ever since Alder had withdrawn from the scene, Unova had been on a steady decline, with no one capable of inheriting the title of champion. But if Dylan were willing to join Unova and become its champion, he could certainly restore Unova's glory. He might even surpass Kanto to make Unova the top region. Do people understand how valuable having Reshiram is? But the key question now was, what could they offer to entice Dylan to join? A wise bird chooses the best tree to perch on, and Alder wasn't sure if the title of Unova champion would be appealing enough to Dylan. Alder pondered this. Should they send Drayden to try to convince him? Though that recluse spent her days writing novels, she had a great figure and appearance. Plus, she was one of the Unova Elite Four, holding a high status. Dylan, being of this age, might have certain fantasies about women, right? Though Alder wasn't sure if she'd agree to it or if Dylan would be into it. While it felt a bit sneaky, for the sake of Unova, some special tactics were necessary. Besides, if Dylan were to join Unova, all of its resources could be channeled toward him. Everyone would have a bright future. This was an era of intense competition, and talents like Dylan belonged to the whole Pokemon League. Why shouldn't Unova try to win him over? There was nothing wrong with that. On the battlefield, Granbull roared again, unleashing a fierce wind mixed with energy. Although Reshiram had just been summoned and was still a bit dazed, as a true legendary Pokemon, it instinctively began to resist. With a heavy sweep of its wings and claws, it unleashed a powerful gust of wind, colliding with the incoming wave of energy and preventing itself from being forcibly returned to its Pokeball. Seeing that Reshiram had not been forced back, Lacey's face turned pale. Oh! Reshiram let out a clear and majestic dragon roar, and the oppressive aura made the very air feel thick. Though it might seem like just a sidekick when compared to Kyurem and Ultra Necrozma, in front of other Pokemon, it was the legendary True Dragon, Reshiram. Do they not understand the majesty of the True Dragon? Lacey could feel the immense pressure, biting her lower lip as cold sweat formed on her forehead. Her heart was racing, thumping faster and faster. So terrifying, so terrifying, so terrifying. Granbull, what kind of monster have you just summoned? Booloo. At this point, Granbull's legs began to wobble. It swallowed hard, taking a step back. This was terrifying. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, Granbull. I believe in you. Don't be scared. Though Lacey was under immense pressure, she still gritted her teeth and encouraged Granbull. No matter what, they couldn't give up without a fight. Lacey couldn't accept such a humiliating defeat, even if they were to lose. Booloo. Hearing its trainer's words, Granbull finally managed to stop retreating, though it was trembling from head to toe. It could feel Reshiram's gaze fixed on it, making its skin crawl and sending shivers down its spine. Please. Please stop looking at me, or I'll start crying. Granbull crying.jpg. Indeed, the intimidating presence of a legendary Pokémon like Reshiram was overwhelming for ordinary Pokémon. Dylan shook his head at the sight. However, this was partly because Lacey and her Pokémon were still quite young. They were, after all, still students at the academy. But at least Lacey was still holding on to her fighting spirit, even after facing Reshiram, which was commendable. Her battle skills, tactics, and Pokémon training were all quite good. Dylan thought it might be worth awarding her a badge, but the battle wasn't over yet. Miss Lacey, try again. Dylan finally spoke, smiling warmly at Lacey in encouragement. Lacey was taken aback. Use that move you just attempted. I understand. Lacey bit her lip, giving Dylan a grateful look. She knew he was trying to relieve some of her pressure. Battling Reshiram was far beyond her capabilities. Granbull, use Roar. Granbull fought a mental battle with itself. It feared that if it roared, the other side would just roar back even louder. But remembering how much Lacey cherished it, Granbull gritted its teeth. The evil hound roared. Dylan looked at Granbull's ultra-low-frequency roar with a strange expression on his face. Well, at least it managed to pull it off. Don't resist, Granbull is already scared to the point of collapse. Seeing that Reshiram seemed to have the intention of flapping its wings again, Dylan spoke through their telepathic connection. Reshiram tilted its head, and then, naturally, was sent back into its cherished Pokeball by the roar. Dylan truly is such a kind and gentle young man. Witnessing this scene, both Alder and Clay were deeply moved. They could clearly tell that Dylan was being considerate of Lacey's emotions. So gentle. Ah, thank you so much, Leader Dylan. Lacey was overwhelmed with gratitude. Leader Dylan was just too kind, sniffle. Heaven knows how much psychological pressure she had felt standing on the battlefield against a legendary true dragon. She was barely holding it together. But before Lacey could finish speaking, a more violent and ferocious presence suddenly descended, even more intense than Reshiram's. Roar! The furious roar of the ice dragon shook the entire Driftvale gym. Alder and Granbull were utterly stunned as dust fell from the ceiling. What? What kind of roar was that? Like a small earthquake? Lacey's eyes widened in shock, and they started to tear up. Kyurem's aura was simply too fierce, and it was right across from her. The overwhelming and terrifying pressure felt like a direct assault, freezing her in place, her entire body stiff and unable to move. Even Granbull, unsure of where it found the strength, dashed behind Lacey, clinging to her leg and trembling, its head buried and refusing to lift up. Mom, I'm scared.jpg. Kyurem's golden dragon eyes were filled with rage as it glared at Lacey and her Granbull. Was this really Dylan's opponent? Too weak, but, oh well, I'm Dylan's partner now. Roar! Dylan, I will freeze all your enemies for you. The icy blue energy around Kyurem began to condense, forming beautiful ice rings that shimmered around its body. A frozen world. I will turn you into eternal ice sculptures. A chilling cold began to spread, and a thick layer of frost formed on the ground around Kyurem's feet. The temperature inside Driftvale Gym visibly dropped, and frost from the cold air above turned into snowflakes that gently drifted down. It's snowing? Granbull dumbly stared at the frost and snow on his cowboy jacket, completely dumbfounded. Wait! Kyurem! Dylan quickly stopped Kyurem. Question mark. Kyurem paused, its massive, ferocious head turning toward Dylan in confusion. This is a gym battle, you need to go easy. Don't go all out. An easy battle? Kyurem seemed to understand.
Miss Lacey, how about you try that move again?
Dylan, wearing an awkward yet polite smile, turned to Lacey, who had tears welling up in her eyes. The poor girl was on the verge of being scared to tears by Kiram. No, she was already shedding tiny tears.
But Dylan hadn't done it on purpose. How was he supposed to know? What was this Grand Bull anyway? It roared once at Reshiram, and now a second time at Kiram? Didn't even glance at Regirock, Articuno, or Darkrai? What kind of heavenly luck is this? Sniff.
Lacey shook her head, her eyes red.
Trust me. This was really an accident. Have Granbull use roar one more time, and I promise no more scary Kiram. Kiram? Dylan quickly stuffed Reshiram's and Ultra Necrozma's Pokeballs into his backpack, ensuring Granbull's roar wouldn't bring them out.
Dylan truly felt like the most considerate gym leader out there. Where else could you find such a kind and gentle leader? For the challenger's sake, not only was he going easy, he even had to seal his Pokemon's Pokeballs.
Chapter 159, I miss you. Can you come back? What kind of dragon is this?
Alder snapped back to reality, staring at the enormous, wild, great Tyrannosaurus-like dragon on the field.
This terrifying presence, more fearsome than Reshiram, meant this dragon was definitely another legendary Pokemon. Alder frowned in deep thought, then suddenly remembered another legend. Lily, what is this Pokemon?
Unable to confirm for himself, as the Pokédex displayed no data, Alder immediately asked Lily, who was Dylan's sister and should know about Dylan's Pokemon. This is Kyurem, the Ice Dragon Kyurem, Lily replied with a soft smile. Since Kyurem had appeared, there was no point in hiding it any longer.
Kyurem. As expected. Upon hearing this, Alder understood. Kyurem was another one of the legendary dragon Pokemon of Unova, known in folklore as the man-eating and Pokemon-devouring dragon. However, Alder was friends with Shaga of Oplucid City, who had once told him the true origin of Kyurem, that it was the empty shell left behind when the original dragon of Unova split into two. Dylan.
Alder gazed at Dylan in the arena, his eyes filled with fiery admiration. Not only had Dylan captured the truth dragon Reshiram, but also Kyurem.
Was this guy here to collect all the dragon gods of Unova?
But it didn't matter, capturing legendary Pokemon was Dylan's ability, and what Alder needed to focus on now was how to get Dylan to join the Unova League.
On the field. Buoyed by Dylan's gentle reassurance, Lacey regained her fighting spirit.
Although the dragon in front of her still terrified her, she believed she shouldn't give up without a fight. She had mustered up her courage, but...
Granbull, show some backbone.
Lacey looked at Granbull, who was clutching her leg and trembling, and felt a headache coming on, disappointed by her Pokemon's lack of resolve. She herself wasn't this scared.
Booloo.
Granbull looked up at Lacey with a pitiful expression, reluctantly letting go of her leg and slowly stepping back into the battlefield. Technically, Granbull should have been disqualified for running out of the arena just now, as it showed a loss of will to fight, but everyone tacitly agreed not to mention it.
Granbull now stood opposite Kyurem, feeling the overwhelming pressure of the strongest dragon.
Its legs began to tremble again, as it realized it was under far more stress than it could handle.
Oh no! How could a mere Granbull be worthy enough to compete against Reshiram and Kyurem? Was this fair at all? Not even remotely. Granbull, you can do it. Use Roar. Lacey clenched her fists, cheering on her Pokemon. Granbull closed its eyes, trying to block out Kyurem's terrifying face, and let out a roar.
It was a roar that didn't quite sound like a roar, but it unleashed a gust of wind and a mysterious force that struck Kyurem. At Dylan's signal, Kyurem gave the little dog a bored glance before returning to its Pokeball as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Another luxury ball opened, and a dark shadow spread on the ground. From the shadow, the pitch-black nightmare slowly rose.
Darkrai.
Darkray's calm blue eyes locked onto Granbull, but it was puzzled. Why did this little dog look so relieved, as if a heavy burden had been lifted?
Phew, it's the mythical Darkrai.
Lacey sighed with relief, realizing that while Darkrai was certainly formidable, it was far less intimidating than the previous two dragons. Darkrai, the mythical Pokemon from Sinnoh.
Dylan, you're full of surprises. Alder marveled. He was eager to know what other legendary Pokemon Dylan possessed. Boss Clay felt a lot more relaxed as well. He still cared deeply about his precious daughter and didn't want any lasting psychological damage. Lacey, don't get too comfortable. My Darkrai is very strong, so don't underestimate it, Dylan gently reminded her with a warm smile. Yes. I'll do my best. Lacey responded seriously. She knew Dylan had given her an immense advantage, so there was no way she could let him down now. She had to show her full potential to Dylan. Granbull. Lacey called out to her Pokemon. Granbull forced itself to focus, glaring at Darkrai with a menacing expression, its Intimidate ability activating. Darkray's physical attack was lowered by one stage due to Intimidate. However, Darkrai narrowed its eyes slightly, surprised that this little dog had the nerve to bare its fangs at it. Granbull, use Play Rough. Lacey's face was serious. This was the best possible scenario. Darkrai was a dark type, which was weak to fairy type moves. She had to put up a good fight. She couldn't disappoint Dylan. Granbull growled and charged toward Darkrai, but unfortunately, Granbull's fastest running speed was still quite slow. Dark Pulse, Dylan said calmly, with a smile. Darkrai approached Granbull, its black shadow moving like a phantom, dark energy dancing around its claws. Darkrai quickly reached Granbull, whose teeth and claws were glowing with fairy-type energy as it lunged at Darkrai. Play rough. However, Darkrai easily dodged the attack with a graceful sidestep, its claws aimed directly at Granbull's side. Granbull. Watch out. Lacey's eyes widened in shock. Boom. Dark Pulse exploded upon impact, hitting Granbull squarely. Granbull howled in pain, its body sent flying by the powerful dark energy. Despite being a fairy type, which resisted dark type moves, this attack was simply too strong. Luckily, Darkrai had not used its full power. Shadow Ball, Dylan commanded. Darkrai raised its right claw, forming a dark, eerie energy ball. With a swift motion, Darkrai hurled the Shadow Ball at the fallen Granbull. Boom! The Shadow Ball hit its target, erupting in a loud explosion. The pitch-black nightmare floated back to Dylan, silent and eerie as always. Granbull is unable to battle. Darkrai wins, Alder declared. So strong. Lacey stared in disbelief at her unconscious Granbull. There was no doubt this Darkrai was far stronger than the Regirock from the beginning. Did she really roar away the weakest one? Thinking of this, Lacey wanted to bang her head against the wall. How could this happen? In comparison to Regirock, Darkrai's offensive capabilities are definitely much stronger. Miss Lacey, there's a reason I chose Regirock to lead, Dylan said, seemingly guessing Lacey's thoughts. Regirock has excellent defense and a decent physical attack, but its speed isn't fast. It's a relatively bulky type. If a suitable battle strategy is found, Regirock isn't particularly hard to handle. But Darkrai is different. Dylan glanced at Lacey. Darkrai was agile and had a fast speed. With its priority move, Dark Void, it would put opponents to sleep upon hitting, and its special attack was exceptionally powerful. Furthermore, Darkrai was also at a higher level than Regirock, so the difficulty of their battle was clear. But Dylan was at a loss. He had chosen the weakest and easiest to battle Regirock as the lead, and Lacey had scared it away herself. Now, it was still not returning. Woo! Lacey covered her face and let out a cute whimper. Regirock, I miss you. Can you come back? But the battle had to continue. Lacey quickly adjusted her emotions. After thinking it over, she threw out her third Pokeball. Whimsicott. Please. The Pokeball opened in the air, and a Pokemon with a big fluffy tuft of cotton on its back landed in front of Lacey. It wasn't very large, its brown body resembled a sheep, with cotton extending from the top of its head and swelling into a large puff. Ding Whimsicott, Grass, Fairy type, Windvale Pokemon. Ability, Prankster. Moves, Moonblast, Tailwind, Cotton Guard, Light Screen, Cotton Spore, Stun Spore, Leech Seed, Giga Drain.
Description: like the wind, it can slip through any tiny gap, leaving behind white tufts of fluff.
It looked quite cute. Lily looked at the data of this Whimsicott in the Pokédex. Whimsicott, huh? Dylan raised an eyebrow at the cheerful and cunning-looking Whimsicott. And if he remembered correctly, Lacey's Whimsicott had the prankster ability. Whimsicott, use Stun Spore, Lacey decisively commanded.
Whimsicott grinned, waving its little arms, and a cloud of yellow powder drifted through the air. Thanks to the prankster ability, it used Stun Spore at an incredibly fast speed. Blizzard, blow it back, Dylan narrowed his eyes. Darkrai quickly retreated, its claws coming together before violently spreading apart, unleashing a powerful blizzard.
An Ice-type blizzard.
Under the blizzard, the Stun Spore was directly consumed, and the blizzard continued to surge toward Whimsicott.
Whimsicott, protect! Lacey reacted quickly.
Whimsicott immediately used Protect, and the green barrier expanded instantly under the boost of Prankster.
Dylan shook his head, seeing that Whimsicott couldn't hold it.
Lacey's choice was very correct. The area of the blizzard was too large, making it the most rational decision for Whimsicott to use Protect. But it was futile, his Darkrai was already level 71. The difference in strength was so great that Protect couldn't withstand it, and it would be directly shattered. The howling blizzard slammed into the Protect barrier, but before Lacey could feel relieved, the barrier began to freeze and then shatter.
Creak! Protect was directly broken by the blizzard, which continued to surge toward Whimsicott. Whimsicott cried out in pain, its entire body engulfed by the blizzard.
And since Whimsicott was weak to Ice-type moves, there was no way it could hold on.
Whimsicott is unable to battle. Darkrai wins, Alder announced the result of the battle.
Lacey bit her lip, looking at her unconscious Whimsicott with a bit of helplessness. It couldn't even protect itself, and this Darkrai really left her feeling powerless.
Once again, she missed Regirock. How about switching to the Rock Guardian, Dylan?
That gym leader's rule against switching Pokemon could also be overlooked, in her opinion.
The gap in strength is too big.
The observing Clay sighed, filled with paternal worry for his precious daughter. I hope Lacey won't be affected by this battle. The outcome of the battle was already a foregone conclusion. Now Clay was only worried about whether his daughter's mindset would be influenced by this battle. After all, there were many instances of this. Many trainers had fallen into despair after a crushing defeat in a single battle.
Don't worry. Lacey isn't the type to be downcast just because of one failure. She's not that weak.
Alder was quite confident in Lacey.
Even facing Reshiram and Kyurem, she didn't give up on the battle.
Alder believed Lacey had a bright future ahead. And she's already performed well.
Do you think Dylan would give her a badge?
Alder was quite curious about this. To be honest, he didn't think anyone could defeat Dylan, who used this legendary team.
It was no wonder Dylan said he was at his peak. Is there really someone in this world who can defeat Reshiram and Kyurem in a legitimate battle?
Alder seriously doubted it. The might of Kyurem made even him feel a shiver down his spine.
So would Dylan really give out that legendary Rota badge?
Perhaps the only possibility was to gain the recognition of Dylan, who used a legendary team, and then randomly give a badge.
If it were me, I would give it.
Clay replied naturally.
I also think he would.
To be able to face Kyurem and still have the will to continue battling, just that alone is already no small feat. This girl has already earned a badge.
Alder thought the same. Putting aside everything else, Lacey's determination was commendable. As far as I know, it seems that the Rota Gym has only given out one badge so far, right, Lily?
If it's the new Rota badge, then yes, only Erica received a Ghost-type Rota badge. Hearing Alder's question, Lily replied obediently. In fact, according to Celine and Asha, Brother has wanted to give out badges several times, but those challengers felt they hadn't defeated Brother, so they didn't accept them. After all, many trainers have their pride, it's quite normal.
Clay, as a gym leader, wasn't surprised by this.
He had also wanted to give badges to challengers multiple times but was refused.
This Dylan is really something. Gym badges can be divided by various types. If he encounters a trainer with OCD, how many times would he have to challenge to collect them all? Just imagining that scene made Alder laugh out loud. What a pity that such an extraordinary talent wasn't born in their Unova, what a shame. It's making me want to battle Dylan for a Rota badge to collect it. Chapter 160, this time was just an accident. Yes, I'll wait for an opportunity to spar with Dylan and collect his gym badge as a keepsake. Alder thought about this, though it seemed a bit odd for a regional champion to challenge a gym. But apparently, over in Galar, their gym leaders often compete alongside their undefeated champion Leon, so it's not that strange after all. Meanwhile, back in the battle arena, Lacey calmed herself and finally sent out her trump card, the last of her 4 Pokémon. Excadrill. In a flash of white light, a dark brown Pokémon landed in front of Lacey. It had a robust body, a white face, and its most striking feature, sharp steel blades on its forehead and claws. This was Excadrill. Is this one a fairy type too? Lily asked, puzzled as she observed the fierce-looking Excadrill. It didn't look like one at all. Beep Excadrill, ground/steel type, subterranean Pokémon. Ability, Mold Breaker. Moves, Horn Drill, Drill Run, Swords Dance, Dig, Rock Slide, Slash, Terastallization Burst, Rapid Spin, High Horsepower. Description: its drill-like steel body can penetrate iron plates, making it a vital part of tunnel engineering. No fairy type, huh? Well, that makes sense. Bringing an Excadrill into a fairy-type team isn't all that unusual. Lily blinked and remembered her brother's strategies, and it no longer seemed so strange. Gym leader Dylan, our Blueberry Academy is the sister school to Orange Academy, so our students are also proficient in terastallization. Lacey took out a black Terra orb and addressed Dylan. I'm aware. Dylan smiled and nodded. Terastallization was a power developed by Professor Sada and Professor Turo from the Paldea region. Essentially, it allows a Pokémon's type to change to its Terra type. Every Pokémon has a specific Terra type, and terastallization transforms it into that type. For example, Lacey's Excadrill was naturally ground and steel, but its Terra type was fairy. Once terastallized, it would become a fairy type. After terastallization, its strengths and weaknesses would change to match the fairy type, but it could still get stab, same type attack bonus, for using ground and steel type moves. If the Terra type matches the Pokémon's natural type, the power boost would be even greater. For instance, if this Excadrill terastallized into its ground or steel type, it would gain extra power, effectively boosting its battle strength. In comparison to Mega Evolution, Z-moves, and Dynamaxing, terastallization offered more tactical flexibility, which was one of its major advantages. While terastallization doesn't inherently increase a Pokémon's raw strength, it's a powerful tool. Take Gyarados, for example. It's undoubtedly strong among water types, but its fatal weakness to electric moves drags it down significantly. However, if Gyarados terastallized into a pure water type, it would not only enhance its water-type moves but also reduce its electric-type weakness from 4x to 2x, making it much more formidable than one might expect. That's the advantage of terastallization. You truly are knowledgeable, Gym Leader Dylan, Lacey said as the black Terra orb in her hand began to glow. She had initially thought she might need to explain terastallization, unsure if Dylan was familiar with it. But it turned out there was no need. Excadrill. Lacey tossed the Terra orb towards her Excadrill. The moment the orb touched Excadrill, radiant energy enveloped its entire body, forming crystal-like structures. What is that? Lily asked, stunned. That's terastallization from Paldea. It changes a Pokémon's type, Alder explained, intrigued as he watched the transformation process. Alder had some knowledge of it. It was, after all, a way to enhance a Pokémon's abilities, similar to Galar's Dynamaxing or Alola's Z-moves. However, unlike Dynamaxing, which could only be used in energy spots in Galar, terastallization had no such limitations. Alder had even pulled some strings to get a Terra orb for himself, and he found it quite interesting, especially with the tactical flexibility it offered. Crack! The sound of shattering crystals echoed as terastallized Excadrill emerged.
Its entire body gleamed with a crystalline glow, but the most eye-catching feature was the pink, heart-shaped crown atop its head, a hallmark of the fairy Terra type. A fairy terastallized Excadrill, so it's a pure fairy type team? After Alder's explanation, Lily understood, though she found it rather peculiar, but not entirely wrong. Excadrill, dig! Lacey quickly commanded her Excadrill after thinking for a moment. Excadrill dived into the ground with incredible speed, disappearing beneath the battlefield. Take to the air, Dylan said with a light chuckle. Dig allows ground-type Pokemon to burrow underground, but a well-timed earthquake would make Excadrill regret that. Unfortunately, Darkrai doesn't know earthquake. Darkrai floated into the air, its blue eyes calmly watching the ground below, waiting for Excadrill to resurface. Excadrill, terastallization burst. Lacey gave another order when she saw Darkrai wasn't giving Excadrill any openings. The ground beneath Darkrai bulged as Excadrill emerged, its body glowing with pink fairy-type energy. With a heavy swipe of its claws, a beam of light from terastallization burst shot towards Darkrai. Fairy-type terastallization burst. Terastallization burst is normally a normal-type move, but once a Pokemon terastallizes, the move's type changes to match the Pokemon's Terra type. It also adapts based on whether the user's attack or special attack is higher. In Excadrill's case, its terastallization burst was, naturally, attack-based. Thunder. Electric sparks flickered around Darkrai as a massive bolt of lightning descended from the sky. The thunder attack collided with the terastallization burst, creating a dazzling light display of pink and gold. But soon, thunder overpowered terastallization burst and crashed down. Excadrill, dodge! Lacey called out urgently to her Pokemon. Excadrill, now lacking its ground typing due to terastallization, was no longer immune to electric-type moves. It tried to dive underground again, but thunder was too fast. Boom! The lightning struck Excadrill as it was halfway into the ground, leaving the air sizzling with electricity. With a loud crash, Excadrill collapsed to the ground, its body smoking and its terastallization fading, signaling its defeat. Excadrill is unable to battle. Darkrai wins. Challenger Lacey's 4 Pokemon have all been defeated. This challenge ends in failure, Alder announced the final result. None of the 3 spectators were surprised by the outcome. Lacey lowered her head in disappointment. She hadn't managed to take down even one of Dylan's Pokemon. You did well, Miss Lacey. Dylan approached her with his nightmare Pokemon floating behind him. Gym leader Dylan. Lacey raised her head, but then bit her lip and looked down in shame. I'm sorry to have let you down. I'm still too weak. Her voice was soft. She had thought becoming one of the 4 Heavenly Kings at the Academy meant she was a skilled trainer. But after this battle, she felt utterly defeated. Even though Dylan had gone easy on her, she had still failed miserably. No, Miss Lacey, you're not weak at all, Dylan shook his head. Although the final result wasn't great, I noticed quite a few bright spots in you, Miss Lacey, during our battle. As for the crushing defeat, I do have some confidence in my own strength. When faced with my team of legendary Pokemon, most people might struggle even more than you did, Miss Lacey. Dylan didn't think Lacey, who had almost been swept by Darkrai, was weak. After all, as he said himself, using a team of legendary Pokemon, Dylan could easily claim to be the strongest trainer in the world right now. Even if Leon himself were here, he'd have to kneel. In an official battle, Kyurem and Ultra Necrozma are no joke. Even against that old monster, Dylan, with Ultra Necrozma in hand, no longer felt any fear. And at the very least, Miss Lacey, you showed me a brilliant and unwavering will. Dylan smiled warmly as he looked at Lacey. Lacey was stunned and raised her head, staring blankly at the young gym leader in front of her. So please, Miss Lacey, choose one. I recognize your talent and will as a trainer. Dylan took out 5 beautiful, delicate little brocade boxes from his spatial bag and gestured for Lacey to pick one. These were the 5 new badges currently available at the Rota Gym: Poison, Dark, Ghost, Dragon, and Legend. But Lacey snapped back to reality, feeling flustered as she looked at the 5 little brocade boxes in front of her. She was really embarrassed. As the daughter of Clay, she knew that a gym leader didn't necessarily have to be defeated for a badge to be awarded. If the gym leader recognized the challenger, they could still give their badge. But in this gym challenge, she had lost so miserably.
Could someone like her really deserve the Rota badge? Lacey's face flushed with embarrassment. Ha ha ha, Lacey, just pick one.
You took a beating from legendary Pokemon. Getting a badge to make up for it is fair enough.
Alder laughed, teasing her. And since Dylan recognizes you, there's no need to doubt yourself.
Against that team, even if it were me, the result wouldn't have been much different. Alder crossed his arms and seriously commented.
And he wasn't wrong. Forget about the absurd dragons, Reshiram and Kyurem, just the Darkrai alone was already champion level.
Alder sincerely believed that if he were up against that Darkrai, even his ace Volcarona would struggle in a hard-fought battle, and he wasn't even sure he could win.
Just accept it, Lacey.
After becoming stronger, you can challenge Dylan again to show him your growth. That would be the best way to repay his trust in you.
Clay also encouraged his precious daughter. I understand. I will not let down gym leader Dylan's trust.
The gym leader's willingness to give his badge to a challenger was a deep form of trust, and for the first time, Lacey felt the joy of being recognized by a powerful trainer. But it also meant that she had to work even harder, not to let this recognition go to waste, and to make sure others didn't think Dylan had poor judgment.
I'm looking forward to it. Now, go ahead and pick one or leave it to chance.
One of these boxes contains the most precious Rota Legend badge.
Dylan nodded in satisfaction and then spoke gently. There's actually a Legend Rota badge.
Lacey's beautiful eyes immediately lit up, and Alder and Clay were equally astonished. The Legend Rota badge was undoubtedly the most special. The other Rota badges could be obtained through normal challenges, but this Legend badge, who in the world could defeat Dylan and his team of legendary Pokemon? The only way was to get the Golden Legend team and earn Dylan's recognition, and then to draw it randomly from these Rota badges.
Its rarity was unimaginable. Lacey's breathing quickened.
If she could draw this Legend badge, she would likely be the only person in the world to have it.
A 1 in 5 chance. Could she do it?
Oh, Lacey, trust me, pick this one.
It's definitely the right one. Alder was excited, pointing to the box in the middle.
The thrill of this blind draw was just too much.
After all, I was the one who picked the Golden Legend team for you earlier, wasn't I, Lacey? Believe me. Lacey couldn't help but glare at Alder when she heard that. You still have the nerve to mention it. Thank you very much.
But Alder wasn't wrong, he had indeed chosen the Golden Legend team for her earlier, so... Lacey bit her lip, her gloved hand trembling slightly as she reached for the middle box.
Dylan handed her the box and put away the other 4. Lacey took a deep breath, slowly opening it as Alder and Clay curiously leaned in.
The box opened, revealing a beautifully crafted green gemstone badge with a deep purple poison-type emblem on top.
It was a Poison Rota badge. Ha! It's poison?
Alder scratched his head.
No way, his instincts were usually spot on. What a pity.
But suddenly, Alder felt a sharp, blade-like gaze directed at him. Yep, it was from the adorable Lacey. Lacey, this time was just an accident, Alder said awkwardly. Champion Alder, Lacey said with a blank expression.
Thank you so much for your help today.
I was so close to the Legend Rota badge. That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as a Kanto gym leader.
Thanks so much for listening.
As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well.
See you in the next one.